Good evening. You'll stand and join me for the pledge. Close with the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. It sounds good the first time. First thing on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. It's the minutes of the March 29th regular board meeting. April bills totaling $392,991.45. The financial reports contain the Parents as Teachers program review, the guidance and counseling program review, the curriculum program review, and budget amendments that were included in your packet. I'll pause for questions or comments.
Bill total is updated, yes? Right? 392.
I did see that in an email, and I thought it was 400 something. It's 409, 125, 95. And the budget amendments were $15,222.29. That is what we received today around noon, I believe.
409 what? Sorry.
409, 125, 95.
I make a motion, we approve.
I'll second.
I did have a question.
You're okay.
Ellen got it.
Okay. I did have a question about the Parents as Teachers report. It says we're currently serving 107 families, and we had a wait list of 131. Is that accurate? Is there anybody here that can accurately tell me that? I see the counselors looking around at each other.
It was
and
100
Not
plus
these
last time.
counselors.
Was it? Okay.
And that's what we're
I know
trying to
that comes
have
out of Ms.
that
Hoskins, and that's a little different than you all back there, so not meaning to put you all on the spot. I just wasn't sure if we were going to get a number. So there's also 157 children on the wait list there, and we're serving about 150, it says. So I was just looking at, we've got some unmet needs in that area possibly we might need to look at, so. Under PDC, Ms. Gina Wise is going to be finishing her term. When they met and elected, Lorena Reyes is going to be serving as vice, and secretary will be Kelly Jo Dobbins as well. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. Looking to adopt the agenda for the rest of the meeting. There is going to be a slight change. The counselors are here underneath reports. We're going to add them to letter A and allow them to go first. Next, we're going to follow them up with Ms. Jacoby as Director of Teaching and Learning, Safety and Security, Mr. Woodring after that, then the Assistant Superintendent and Superintendent. So if you add A on the bottom as counselors, and then just go in reverse order of what you have on your paper. That is the only extra that I have this evening, and we do have a public comment as well. Need a motion?
I make a motion, we approve
Second.
or adopt.
So we moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as stated. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Next, I'm going to pause for a moment before we get to our annual election and reorganization of the board to recognize a couple of people. So first, I'm going to recognize Ms. Ellen Lance, who served on the board for the last 3 years. This is a very highly paid and sought-after job within the community. I'm glad everyone realizes we don't get paid, those of you at home. So, but it does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of devotion and making decisions based on what's best for our kids and our community. So I'd like to thank Ms. Ellen Lance, and I know she's got some comments for us this evening. So, Ms. Lance.
So it's probably not totally common for board members to speak up on their way out. But we came in a time that was intense, incredible, unknown. Some people were irresponsible. Some people were over-responsible. And I just want to say, to the board, thank you for being leaders to each other. Thank you for being leaders to me. Thank you for continuing to lead this community when we've had more meetings. We had more meetings in the first year of being on this board than we were supposed to have our entire time in our 3 years. And so that was our first year. And actually, it really wasn't a year. We lost 3 months in our election. So I really didn't even get my full 3 years. But so congratulations. There are so many great things happening around the district. And it starts with the support of this team. They give freely of their time to advocate for this community, its kids, and employees. Without this team willing to give of their time, so many things would still be in despair. Caleb Pettit, thank you for giving Marshall a chance. You and your team have enabled us to do things unheard of by this community for a half a century in only 9 months of your leadership. Amen. Many of us have leaned hard on leadership in this district to lead. Since July, there has been little leaning as you came in with your feet on the ground with expectations of success in the most honest and correct way. I applaud you and look forward to where this district is headed with your leadership. Employees of the district, congratulations. I feel like you finally have a leader that will teach you and guide you to a successful career. First, I know you feel the true support of central office, and no doubt that you have felt the love and support in the last few weeks from your parents and community members. I wish nothing but the best to you as you experience the great things your administration will do for you. Students, it's time. It is your time. Build trust in this community and district and permanently place our pride on your heart. Parents, I would encourage you to get involved. There are so many parent groups available at every level. No one is left out unless you leave yourself out. I would encourage you to reach out and find your place. I promise there are opportunities that won't cost you anything but your time. Support your high school booster club. They supplement many things for your high school teams. They need active, willing members to work. The financial commitment is zero. The price is only your time. Since July, you have been able to see a board that is eager to be in meetings, excited about hearing the truth, and working with real and true details. Marshall Public is in great hands, and we are blessed. I look forward to continuing to support them. Lastly, I would encourage every community member to learn the details and the expectations and requirements of each board member. From the outside, things appear so faint and hidden. I felt this way too. So much work is done on the outside. It is the norm for this position. It's the recommendation that questions are asked before the meetings. It can be frustrating, but communicate with your leadership and your board members so you understand and you are educated. I promise these people to have spent way more time working for you than the 12 meetings in a year. This free job is a large time commitment, and no one sitting on this team expects less, but is excited to be your voice and the ears to listen to your thoughts. Thank you again for my time in this seat. Life changes quickly, and it's good to have a bright future.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Lance. Next, I'm going to ask Ms. Linda Perkins to join me in front as well. Linda has been the board secretary for over 40 continuous years. I'm not going to try to go through the numerous superintendents that she served with, the numerous locations that she served out of, and the numerous colleagues and individuals whose, over the years, contracts she's filed and seen come and go and retire while she's still been sitting in the seat and supporting us through an administrative level over the years. So, Ms. Perkins, will you join me up front, please? We have our Class A photographer here tonight.
Okay, I don't want to do a picture though. Am I out? Huh? No? I was trying to lean out of your picture.
Ms. Perkins, would you like to say anything this evening?
I don't think
I know you're a lady of very few words, so that does not surprise me. So, thank you again. Next, we're going to be going down to the reorganization of the board. First, we have to approve the annual election results. Those as well were in your packets with the numbers that each candidate received as well. I think we certified, yes. All right.
Will these be needed to be individual items, so we need to make motion to approve them?
It's a one motion to certify the election results.
Yes. It's one to certify those now, yes, sir.
Also move.
Second. Can you second yourself? I don't think you can. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we certify the election results. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The individuals who won the current election will be Mr. Lenz, who's going to be remaining on the board for a 3-year term, Matt, who's going to be remaining on the board for a 3-year term. Ms. Lance chose not to join us, and we thank you for your time, Ms. Lance. And Ms. Green, who's in the audience, will be coming up now to replace Ms. Lance on the board, and the newly elected officers will be administered the oath by Ms. Perkins.
That hug's from me, too. Love you. One hug does it all. Yeah, one hug.
Do you solemnly swear that you support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Missouri, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director in and for the school district of Marshall, County of Saline, State of Missouri, to the best of your ability according to law?
Welcome, Amy.
At this point in the process, I'll turn it over to Mr. Pettit for the election of the officers going forward for the next and remaining school year.
Okay, so now at this point, we get into the reorganization of the board, starting with a nomination for the election of board president. I would need a motion.
I would like
Or
to
a recommendation, a motion?
nominate Brian Jakes.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Harry Carroll, second by Aaron Meyer, is that correct?
That's my name.
Okay. All in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, any other nominations? I apologize. Would there be any other
I
nominations?
mean, we were just going to keep it rolling.
Hearing none, I will say then, if we could vote by saying yay.
Yay.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Mr. Brian Jakes, you then are board president. I'll let you take it over.
All right. Thank you, sir. Moving down, we need to elect a vice president as well. Same process as well with a name for nomination.
I'll nominate Matt Williams. Matt.
I'm just getting ready to nominate you, Harry.
No, I've been there. No. I'm on my way out, too. I'll second it. There you go.
We have a motion and a second for Mr. Smith. Are there any other nominations? All those in favor of Matt remaining as vice president, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Next, going down to election of treasurer.
I want to nominate Jack Lenz.
I'll second.
I'm pausing for other nominations, not just because I was lost. All those in favor of Mr. Lenz as treasurer of the board?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. Going down to election of secretary of the board. I'm going to nominate Ms. Denise Renault.
Second.
She stole my sign.
She's working on it, sir. Are there any other nominations?
Aaron, control yourself.
Control yourself.
Have to put you in the hall?
TLC coming up. Thank you.
Where are we at, Mr. President? I'm sorry.
We're ready for your
Unruly student-
favorite, call the question.
Unruly student disturbing that situation.
So we have a nomination that's been moved and seconded from Ms. Denise Renault. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Or abstaining? For those of you unaware, Ms. Renault is our new HR individual within the district, and she is going to be assuming the role of secretary of the board. So. Next, we need to appoint an MSB delegate and alternate, and we can do these at the same time.
Signature.
Who is it?
I've been our MSBA, I've been at the MSBA delegate meetings for like, what, 2 or 3 years now? I've been our voting member, so I'm happy to do it. I can't, I don't know if I can nominate myself.
I'll
but-
move.
I nominate Aaron.
I'll nominate you. No
And I like
problem.
it. I like MSBA, so.
And I would also nominate Mr. Carroll as the alternate to that, if he
Good.
would
Keep
so
doing
be
all the work.
inclined.
I know, that's fine. I like it.
Second.
Second?
Works perfect.
So we have a delegate and Dr. Meyer, and then a alternate and Mr. Carroll. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Perkins.
Thank you very much.
We'll allow for a little bit of movement here to go on, and in that time, Mr. Scott Fan is going to be speaking to us briefly. He had a public comment that he had sent in to us as well, and I'll allow him to move up towards the podium and get a microphone so that you can address everyone at home and so that they can hear the words that I've already read.
Should be a mic there.
Thank you. You can do that for everybody.
Okay, thanks for letting me come up tonight. I sent Mr. Pettit an email, I believe, last week stating I'd love to bring it to the board. I just didn't have the time. Usually I'm on a ball field every night or a soccer field, and tonight he talked me into coming here tonight. So I just wanted to bring some positive things to the board and let you guys hear it straight from my mouth. So a lot of times when somebody speaks up publicly, you guys know that it's a lot of negative issues. So I wanted to bring some positive issues to light here that I've been dealing with, that I've been seeing with the past few years. My name's Scott Fan. I'm the president of our local Little League. I'm also the president of the charter, and I'm also president of the park board here in town. So I see a lot of this. We have had a lot of good things going on lately with partnership with the schools, and I'll mention some names here pretty soon, but I wanted to let everybody know that we have an older softball team, so they're juniors and seniors, so they're 13 to 16 years old. The high school has allowed us to play our games and practice on their field, their turf fields. These girls are all, they're on the high school team, so they're getting ready to go to high school. So it really helps them get used to the high school field. It also helps free up our fields out at the park. We have a limited amount of fields out there, and as you know, Valley's out there as well, and so we're all trying to share fields in this town. And so that has been a huge help to us the last few years. Also, by allowing us to use that field, we have hosted our Little League charter, and more specifically Marshall, has hosted district and state tournaments in our town at the high school. So this district would be District 1, and this can go all the way up to Maryville, Missouri, and then, of course, the state is statewide. So when we're hosting these tournaments, we're allowing our local kids to stay home and play tournaments here in town and not travel 3-4 hours away. We're also opening up the concession stand. So we had, for instance, last year we had multiple high school sports teams that are running these concession stands. So they're raising funds for their programs and for their teams. We bring in a lot of out-of-town teams, players, parents into town. They're staying at our hotels, they're eating at our restaurants. They're raising, they're paying taxes, right? Sales revenue. And that's all coming back into our community. And me as the president of the park board, we see that. And that goes into our facilities out the park. And so the use of the partnership with the schools that allow us to use these facilities. If it weren't for a facility like out the high school, we would not be able to host tournaments like this. So it does so many things. I can't even get down into how many things it does for us. So I guess what I'm saying tonight is I really get the feeling that this community is rallying together. I like what Ellen was saying. Mr. Pettit, when he came to town, immediately reached out to me. We've had multiple conversations. We've sat down to lunch. I really appreciate everything that he's opening up, working with the park department, working with our Little League organization. So it takes this partnership in communities like ours to really bring the kids together, keep the kids involved, keep them developing, and then instill a sense of community pride among all the kids, rich, poor, or indifferent, right? Little League is an organization that is open to all kids. It's at a minimal cost, and we also offer scholarships. We have a lot of people that use those, and we have plenty of people to pay for those scholarships, so it's open to all kids. And we want the kids that, sports is important to me. It teaches them discipline, development, a sense of pride, teamwork, all that. That doesn't have to necessarily do with whether you can hit a ball over the fence or not. So I'm seeing a lot of good things. It's been happening for a year or two. It's really been happening over the last six months. And I would like to mention a few people in particular, if you don't mind, at the high school that has really helped us out. So your athletic director, Kelly Callahan, he's been amazing working with Little League and the park to schedule together, grant access to the high school's field and amenities. Again, like I said, last summer we hosted district and state tournaments in the junior and senior Little League divisions. Kelly helped us out with all facets of hosting this tournament. He even helped me find umpires. As you know, Kelly's an umpire, and he has a lot of good contacts there, so he helped me find umpires. He's always available, and he always helps us find time to use the field. Coach Paul Iverson, he's the high school baseball coach. He's gone so far as to rearrange his summer baseball schedule. So the nights that these girls play, he has taken those nights off and moved his games around. He's worked with us on practice scheduling as well. And if it weren't for him, we wouldn't be able to, properly put together a schedule. Coach Ben Locke, he's the high school softball coach. Very supportive of our program. Really helped us last year in hosting those tournaments I mentioned. Things like, setting up the temporary softball fence that we put on the baseball field, taking the mound off, and Paul and his baseball boys helped with that also. He also helps us recruit players, build our program. He wants the girls working in our program. And he's went so far as to move his summer schedule around to accommodate what we do with Little League and our game times and our practice times. So all three of these guys have been very supportive and great to work with. I'm constantly telling our Little League board, our coaches, and the players how lucky we are that the school works with us. We appreciate you guys and your staff and all you've done for us. I've also been having conversations. See, again, it goes both ways. I've been having conversations with both of those coaches I mentioned. I know there's needs out there at the field. For instance, we need new netting on the batting cages. Little League would love, our local Little League would love to pitch in on that financially, help them get to that. Right, it goes both ways. So they're letting us use the fields. We need to give back as well. And so that's something we're absolutely interested in, helping those guys. And they talk to us and talk to me all the time. So, and lastly, I put here at the end, we do have insurance. We are covered. Your athletic director has a copy of our policy. You are covered under our policy, in case you were wondering. So, again, I appreciate the time tonight, and let me just speak out in front of everybody in the public and just let you know all the great things that I'm seeing. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fan. Thank you, Mr. Fan. We will definitely get the Booster Club to reach out to you to help maybe partner to kind of get some replacement activities going on over there, replacements to the facilities for sure. Hear that, Booster Club? Give me an in there. All right, but thank you. I'm glad, this is a small community. We need to be working together as a community, and it's good to hear that those things are going on so that they're for the betterment of our youth and our community and giving them those opportunities to be on some of those bigger playing fields where they see those other older players have gone on to and where they eventually will get to. So, thank you, sir. Moving on to reports, and I said the counselors would get to go first. They are back there smiling and have a PowerPoint ready to go, so
They even
I'll
have
invite you all up to the mic.
They even have counselor shirts on in case we don't recognize that they're not.
Counselor shirts for you tonight, so.
Thank you for the time to be able to talk with, is it not on? Can you all hear me?
I could hear you fine, but I don't believe your mic actually was on.
Scott turned it
Kind of
off.
loud, you really don't need the mic.
Yeah, but they
Okay.
can't hear it
Okay.
at home.
Now, is it on?
Yes, you're great, thank you.
All right. So, I am Shannon Gottmer. I'm one of the counselors at Marshall High School. And we appreciate a little bit of extra time to be able to just present some great things that we've been doing this year in our comprehensive counseling program. So as April is a time to celebrate spring and new beginnings and also celebrate and honor our hard work for the year, with April being a time to introduce new board members and say hello to previous board members, we would love to utilize this time this year to celebrate our counseling program with highlighting some parts of our 22-23 program review. We understand education is a priority, and many people in the public or even in a school setting do not know the inner workings of a comprehensive school counseling program. We thought this could be a perfect opportunity and platform for sharing this information.
Stay right into the mic. That's unfortunately not a Omni.
Okay, the first thing we thought we could do is meet our awesome team. Everybody's here today, so we thought they could stand up and give a little wave. I'm Audrey Ming. I'm for Spainhauer Primary School, which we house preschool, kindergarten, and first grade. We have Brittany Fisher here, who's also elementary. She's second through fourth grade. Michael Horton has a fun job. He's elementary and also high school. For middle school, we have here Jordan Reith, who's fifth and sixth grade, and Julia Ori, who's seventh and eighth. And then our high school, we're blessed to have so many awesome people there. Shannon, like she said, this year she's in charge of seniors and freshmen. Mary Jo Stark, she's in charge of sophomores and juniors. And then Erica Sims, she has a new position this year, which is awesome, the college career counselor and the A+ coordinator. And we have Eric Lark here, the Career Center. And then we have Kayla Malter, who works at our Therapeutic Learning Center, and she also works with the social work program. So this year, our current structure, we're mostly pretty much 2 grades per counselor. With the adventure and fun of next year, things are going to shift a little bit. Blessing next year is that the middle school will be 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and they're going to get to have 2 counselors remain with them, so that's really awesome. We'll have a counselor at the 5th grade center, and then some shifting among TLC and the elementary division. So good things and exciting things to come. So when people think of what an elementary counselor is, you may have in your head and think, man, she must really like to play all day. Or maybe they like to ask, tell me more about how that makes you feel. And we do ask those things, and I do like to play. You may think older counselors talk about they're like the gurus of scheduling. And all those things are true. But there's so much more to the counseling profession. And Missouri in particular, has worked really hard making strides to identify what our role is in a school. So we're so thankful to come here, because like Shannon said, people in the school setting don't even know exactly, what DESE and the American School Counseling Association, our goals really are. So thanks for having us. So the 3 main areas that counselors have is on our board, academic, career development, and social emotional development. So for academic, our main role is we want kids to know that they are safe, they are loved, and what they do matters. And we want to set up an environment where they can learn to be the most successful they can be. So counselors do that in lots of different ways. I know in elementary, we're on the problem-solving team where we help identify goals to help them feel that success at school. Or I know in the upper levels, they work really hard on class placement and trying to find their fit and the right path that they need to take to achieve the best they can in their academics. For career, that's a big one. We start all the way in preschool, and we start in kindergarten talking about community helpers and the world of work, and really pushing kids to know that there's so much out there. You know, you don't have to live in Marshall, Missouri. You can go to Africa or go anywhere, and whatever your passion is. We know kids have lots of interests and abilities, and there's so many different things they can do to find their passion, and we want them to be successful humans, and so we love to start working on that young. And then social emotional development, which is huge. And we were just talking at dinner about how the social emotional needs have just changed so much over time, especially now. And we know as a counseling team, we're the first line of defense when it comes to those social emotional needs that come up. And we have that really unique training that meets those needs anytime throughout the day, whether it be planned through a classroom visit or a crisis time. We really love to support mental health for our kids to help them be the most successful. And so that's what we do. And now these ladies are going to say how we do.
So I told Audrey, yeah, let's go talk at the board meeting, no problem. And my heart rate has went off on my phone twice since I've been here. So anyway, so Audrey talked about the 3 different domains that school counselors take care of. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we actually do that. I'm going to talk about the first 2, which is core curriculum and individual planning. So core curriculum is part of the Missouri Comprehensive Guidance Program where we push out our lessons. At the elementary level, it looks a little bit different as you develop through middle and high school, but it's typical for elementary counselors to be inside the classroom for classroom lessons that usually last about 30 minutes twice a month. At the middle school level and high school level, it shifts a little bit. It looks a little bit different, but we're still pushing out our curriculum. But it may come in the form of presentations, class meetings, assemblies, things like that. So we do like to send out a needs assessment about every 3 years or so, and that goes out to students, staff, and parents. And it gives us feedback as to the needs that our students have or that parents see. DESE has a form for us to use, and it helps us shape and guide our lessons for the year as well. So that's pretty much how we take care of our core curriculum through classroom lessons, assemblies, presentations, things like that. Individual planning, to me, this one's kind of exciting. Well, we love it all, but it's where you really get to know your students more on an individual basis, and you can create that roadmap for them, not just the classes that they're going to take, but also that post-secondary success. So it's fun to watch them develop who they are in their community, to find their interest and their skills and how they can meet to help them become successful after they graduate from Marshall High School. One of the pictures you're going to see at the end is my bulletin board, and it says, I like big bucks and I cannot lie. For those of you that are 90s babies, you know that song. But we like to talk about the 3 E's, which is enlistment, enrollment, or meaningful employment. And that individual planning process really helps our students to be successful and have a plan for after graduation.
The next 2 areas are our responsive services. This is definitely, we come into crisis response, small group counseling, individual counseling. Crisis response can come in different forms. The kid can just show up outside my office in tears. A teacher can do a referral. They can just send you a quick email. They call you on the phone. The crisis response has increased trifold over the last few years. So we're working really hard to provide regulation, coping skills, and just a safe place. Sometimes you just need a few minutes to calm down, and then we're going to get you back to class. Because, that is the goal. We want them to be able to be calm and then go back to class and continue to learn. We also have, and are very lucky in our community, we work with Burl and Katy Trail. And so also as counselors, sometimes our students need more intense therapy and support. And so we are lucky to have therapists that can come into our schools and be able to see kids, which helps out with schedule And like if parents, because if their parents aren't home, they can't see them at home or they can't get them to their appointment. So that has been a wonderful resource. It has worked out really well. And they are, sadly, in a sense, but good for the students and our parents. Their caseload has increased a lot over the years. We also consult with parents, our community members, teachers, administration. We're kind of, we can be quiet in the background and listen. We can provide feedback. We provide resources. We're just there to be the best support that we can be for, depending on what the situation is. So we are the all-around, not administrators, but we're there to support you.
Okay. So we thought it was important to help teach and talk about what school counselors do, but we also thought it was important to include what school counselors don't do. As you can see, our plates are pretty full, but there are some things that fall on counselors that we want to help educate about. So one of the things we have on here is covering classes when teachers are absent or teacher plan time, or to be used as a teacher plan time. And so we just gave a brief statistic of 3 of our MPS counselors have subbed for a total of 96 hours in this school year. So for us, we look at that as 96 hours that we weren't in our office to serve as students, 96 hours that we weren't able to provide resources or the support that they need. Another thing that school counselors do not do is perform disciplinary actions or assign discipline consequences. We want to be that person that students can come to. And sometimes that gets a little gray when you're dealing with issues such as bullying and things like that, because there are some disciplines that come with that, but we're not the ones to assign those things. District testing coordinators. That we probably have some counselors in their head that are saying, yes, I'm not a testing coordinator. And then creating school-wide individual education plans or 504 plans. So MPS has a total number of 82 active 504 plans that are managed by 5 counselors. Next. Oh, that's you, Audrey. Get with it. I'm looking at Wesley. Come on.
So we wanted to use this time to say woohoo and also celebrate and spotlight some of the awesome things about what we're doing. For our program, we have a school therapy dog, which Lorix is back there. Julie donated her time, talent, and treasure and worked with others to bring him here, and he's such an asset. I know kids look forward to going to middle school. Teachers look forward to it. We're just so blessed to have a therapy dog. On our team, not only do we have school counselors, but they have pursued education even further. Kayla Malter, she's a licensed clinical social worker, so she can provide therapy services. I'm a registered play therapist and also a licensed counselor for outside. Another cool thing is at our district, no matter what level you're at, middle, elementary, or high, there's somebody on our team who has at least 10 years of experience. So I love that we bring lots of experience to the table. And then my shirt and some of our shirts today, something really close to my heart is the You OK Today initiative, which Lindsay Parton and I worked so hard. She worked super hard on it, and the Saline County Mental Health Association brought that to our district in 2020. They provided free of charge shirts to anybody from the cafeteria to the bus to any teacher, and it just comes with the responsibility of being somebody willing to listen and willing to care and be a safe place, not just for students but for staff. And we've seen a huge response. We have over 2,000 shirts, which I think is awesome. That includes Saline County schools like Malta Bend, Miami, or Reelville, Slater. It's pushed out to all of them. And over 25 businesses in town, too, including Missouri Valley. So I just love that our team just really pushes mental health for anybody, from little to big.
So about 4 years ago, Mary Jo Stark was a lead advocate in starting with our student council at the high school to do a mental health week. And for the last 4 years, we have had speakers and messages and resources, and the kids have got on board, and they do ribbons, and then they wear them to support their mental health. And it has been a wonderful, especially, I mean, amazing, like we didn't know when we started it, what all was coming after, but it has been received very well. We've had other schools or speakers come that are from other districts, and they say they try to get their districts to do it, but they just can never fully get it going, so that just warms my heart. So it's an awesome thing, and it goes across our district wide. So like she said, from little to big, we all get the resources. Our members, our counselors are members of the Missouri School Counselor Association, also the American School Counseling Association, and the Central Missouri School Counselor Association, which are the state and national organizations for counselors. All graduates of highly qualified counseling programs. Audrey was our Central Missouri Elementary School Counselor of the Year. The Missouri Association of Career Services and Division of Missouri Association of Career and Technical Education is all Eric Lark. I know how much you like me to bring attention to you, Eric. He's been part of the leadership team from 2013 to 17, president in 2015, the 2020 Counselor Coordinator of the Year.
Okay, we're almost done, guys, but you can't have a counseling program without saying, okay, what are your goals? Because we are goal-focused, goal-driven, and we as a team have goals as well. So you'll see this every year from us, is to continue to strive to have a fully implemented Missouri school counseling program. That's a goal for every school counselor in the state of Missouri. As Audrey said, Missouri is leading the way. There are other states that actually model their programs off of Missouri's model. So we've got some pretty great things going on. Next year, we talked about collecting more specific data about the students that we're seeing as far as needs and how we're addressing those, and how many students we're seeing. In addition, we would love to advocate, of course, for additional counselors. DESE recommends less than 250 students to one counselor. And so we just threw up some statistics up there for you guys. Mrs. Ming has 320 students, and next year she's projected to have 429 on her load. And you can kind of see as our numbers go down, 402, 364. So again, these are goals that we would like to see that we could move towards in the future to even bring a better program to the students in Marshall Public Schools.
And then to end and bring a smile, there's Lorax up there, and these are just some pictures of things throughout the year. That's Peyton Jones performing, a middle school student performing at our high school assembly. That's some of Erica's students going on a tour. That's my Sunshine Circles at the elementary building, which is play-based learning, where they learn support and regulation and coping skills. So we hope today, and we're just so glad to have this platform to share what the counseling program really is. And we're proud of it, and we're proud of our team, and we hope you're proud too. Thank you.
Do you guys have any questions for us?
I had a whole slew of questions that I sent to the superintendent about the report. And it sounds like you guys are doing some good work on looking at kind of program assessment for what you guys are doing, or at least you're headed in that direction, which I'm interested in, because it's a way to not just say, hey, we're doing a great job, but to put data to it, right? And we don't want to be chasing after programs that aren't giving us the kinds of results that we need when we have ground to make up. And also we want to put more resources into the things that are working, but we won't know until and unless we've got some data to look at. It sounds like that's where you're headed, which is nice.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Next, we'll have Ms. Laura Jacoby, Director of Teaching and Learning. So I should say Mrs. Laura Jacoby. She gave us some light reading in our packet. She's always very thorough. I was teasing her. I think it's only 24 pages this time. so-
25 pages this time?
Yeah, so I think it's a dissertation usually when I read through it, but it's very informational, so thank you.
I'll promise I'll make this a little shorter tonight, but thank you. Good evening.
Sure you will.
I really will. My son has a scrimmage tonight, and my daughter has ballet, so I told my husband I might pick up my daughter from ballet. We'll see. Depends on how long I talk, but I appreciate you all letting me to have this platform discuss this with you tonight. You received in your handouts the curriculum management plan, and the purpose of this presentation tonight is to provide you with information and our folks at home with curriculum and instruction updates. This is a 10,000-foot view right now. I could take certain parts of each of these, and a lot of this I've spoken to already this year in different things that we've discussed, like our MTSS process, when we did the academic achievement process and we got into some of the data. But specifically, we'll be talking about curriculum management and what that's going to look like moving forward. To keep us compliant with local procedures, board policy, and MSIP 6 indicators. So this is just the inner workings. This is a CSIP goal of ours to establish a plan to update curriculum, assessment, instructional practices, and resources to engage students and increase achievement. And so last year I've been in the district a long time. I've had most of your kids in my classroom back in the day, but I came in last year to this position new. And right away I knew that we needed to have a process and a procedure because we needed to have something that was sustainable and that was laid out and that we could follow. And so that was really what the spring of last year was spent working on, as well as this year. Not to rush that process, to really think through that, check with our MSIP 6 indicators, and work through some things. Our measurable goal here for our electronic curriculum guides for all core areas, I know that's small and hard for you to read. I know you all have a copy of the CSIP as well. We're ahead of schedule with that. I mean, it just reads as core areas. We have all of our core and our non-core areas finished all the way up through Career Center specific to those. So that is something that are measurable. Obviously, curriculum is always changing, and it's based on our data too, instructional decisions. So when we're getting some of those data points back that I've spoken to already this year, we make curricular decisions and based on resources, based on some of those data points as well. So this is a CSIP goal. I just wanted to let everybody know and be aware of that. Okay, timelines. Where have we been and where are we going? So I thought it would be great because we have a lot of board members that were here through the start of this process, and we have a lot that were not. So I actually came up with this document last year, met with board member on it, and we kind of worked through some things. But this is where we started, the creation stages. And that was from the ground up. I was a teacher and a department head at that time, back in 2016 when we started this process. And that came from, and that changed several different times. So I've been through that. So before I even go through the rest of these timelines, people listening at home, administrators, teachers out there, coaches, everybody through this process, thank you for all your hard work. We've come a long way, and we are at a good place. And so the creation stages started essentially, and that went into that board approval. Of course, in the spring of 21, the state released priority standards for our core areas. So we did have a little bit of realignment to do last year, and specifically looking at that this year. What that means is what came out of COVID for our core, and of course science, they're all a priority with the NGSS, but what came out of COVID was they were trying to focus on accelerated learning and focusing on those priorities, so where we should be spending the most part of our time. Of course, our district was a district that chose our priority standards, our essential learning outcomes, our ELOs, before any of that was released. So all of our areas have priority standards. Our core areas have been working on making sure that we're aligning that with the state. So maybe we had one before that we had as a priority. Maybe theirs was a little bit different, just moving and adjusting things, moving some units around. And so all of that work, we kind of started that last year. That came out in the spring of 21. So then moving into this year, we continue to evaluate our finished curriculum for critical components of MSIP 6, looking through those indicators. MSIP 6 wants to make sure that we have our student learning objectives, our learning targets, and we have those priority and those supporting standards. We will continue with professional development based on our data and how we need to increase student achievement and engagement. based on our data. Those instructional decisions will be based on that. And that comes in many different forms. We've spoken to some of those already this year, but when we get into some of those cycles that we're going to be hitting that you saw in the handout already, and we start meeting with teachers, with groups. We have some community people that we're starting to get in. We're going to have a meeting in several weeks once we get some ELA stuff back from the state as far as what the approved resources are. We're going to be looking at a lot of that data. And so we're going to be continuing to evaluate for the effectiveness in the 23 through 25 school year. Of course, then that would come up again for the next cycle to really, really dive into each of the different components. So in order to do that, there are rubrics, there are lots of different things for a clear process for teachers, for the district to follow in that. So I just wanted to provide some timelines there with kind of where we were and where we're going. So you saw in your handout the curriculum management plan. Obviously, if I spent every single moment of tonight just talking about that plan, we might be here all night long. But I'm going to focus on a few of the specific parts of that. This plan was developed to clearly explain and define the use and importance of curriculum in the Marshall School District. In accordance with our board policy, with local procedures, and with MSIP 6. One measure of credible curriculum is that we have teacher involvement too in that process. And so we've hit those along the way, with our teachers and the development and the use. So this actually management plan, I actually shared this with our DESE area supervisor last week. She was very impressed. She said the document outlines thoughtful, well-organized, easy-to-access procedures. Clearly, you have spent time aligning this to MSIP 6 and local processes. A lot of districts don't have anything like this. Some do, some don't. And she was excited to be able to offer that with some of the districts that she works with, too. She works with other districts other than just Marshall, to let them know if they're working on some things and polishing some things up that we have a great process here that we're following. So I thought that I would share that. That was awesome, I felt like, for our district. So part of the management plan, it was several different pages and it included an appendix, but it gets into the MSIP 6 indicators and how that relates to curriculum and data. It gets into required elements. It gets into the revision process, guidelines for choosing materials, how that's done, what we use to do that. It gets into an appendix. We get into what is the curriculum template that we use, what is the pacing guide that we use, what is the scope and sequence that we use. It also includes our district curriculum policy that we have. That also was updated. I'm sure you guys know with all those updates you got in February, you had a first reading, so that was actually the most recent one that was voted, that was in, February. And then we have a curriculum materials rating form that, the district will use when evaluating different materials to use. So there's several pieces there. Another goal that we worked on was how is our curriculum housed for effective and efficient systems. The goal was to create and organize our curriculum in shared drives, and that is for an efficient use of sustainability. At one time, we had kind of a big drive that we housed everything in, so the teachers would have to kind of get out of their drive, log into the other drive. We have, and it sounds easier said than done, but we have now reorganized that. That took a lot of work with the teachers and the coaches and the principals working with them. But we have that process now down. And so you can kind of see in the picture here what those look like. So, say you're a new teacher coming in the district, say we have another teacher leaving. That teacher would then be removed from the shared drive. The new teacher coming in would be added. They would have access to that, and they would be set up with their curriculum right away. They wouldn't have to log into another account. It's tied to their MPS email. So these are just some other, shots of what those look like. And so that'll populate up on their drive. So if, Harry Carroll is logging into his computer and he is teaching, what's up there, BMS Science, he's a sixth grade science teacher. He's going to log in. He's going to get in there. There's going to be his curriculum, all his resources, and available to him. So when they get, and then here's another slide, that gets even our Career Center through ag, building trades business, kindergarten's on there. These are all of our shared drives. Specifically, what's in those shared drives, this is just a little snippet of one of them I just snipped. We have assessments, we have resources, how do we progress monitor, pacing guides, what is our grade card criteria, and so that's all on there. The people that are added that need access to that have that available to them. So that keeps it into an easy process for teachers to, as they're, we have teachers leaving, we have teachers coming in, et cetera. Okay, so you also saw in that document, these are just some of the required curriculum elements. If I spent time on all of that, we'd be here a while, but heavy hitters here are course descriptions, our scope and sequence. So when I say that, and I'll show you an example here in just a minute, that covers, anything from their learning targets to the timelines and when that is happening and their priority and their supporting standards. We have our essential questions, learning targets I already spoke to. We have our essential vocabulary, that is our tier 3 vocabulary that we have there. Lesson activities, materials, how do we engage students? Lessons, how do we account for that differentiated instruction? And then our assessments that are tied. So I'll show you here in just a little bit what each of those look like. So this is just our pacing guide. I'll get into in a minute what is available on our website for parents in the community. So this will include our time frame, does it take 2 weeks? What is the unit? What are they working on? And what are the big priority standards that we're hitting, the big topics, okay? What is your student at that time going to be covering? Something that we spent a lot of time on this year in our core areas, this is our Algebra 1 scope and sequence, as you can see there on the screen. I know it's a little bit small. This is outlined in our units. This is something that we're going to be slowly working on getting also up on the website. This includes at the top links to all the DESE materials, so like our item specifications with DESE. Back in 2018, I actually got to write items for the math assessment for DESE for MAP. We use the item specification. So I got to work through that process. I got to write items for that. And so those are very important for teachers to be using whenever they're teaching because it unwraps the standard and it gives us our limitations for that. So all of these are linked. It includes their I can statements, what students are going to be doing within that unit. It's student-friendly language. And then our priority standards and our supporting standards that support those to meet those goals. So this is an example from our Algebra 1. And again, it's just a little snip here so you can see. Here's another example that shows just the priority standards and the supporting. And then do you guys see how there's little hyperlinks in there within that? So when teachers click on those for our ELA and then for our math is coming, it's going to unwrap. We've been working on that with unwrapping the standards. So looking at a specific standard and saying, okay, this standard, here it is for a student, what does that student need to do to be proficient? Because a lot of times we might read that and interpret it in several different ways. And so this is unwrapping. This is one particular standard, and it gives several different resources on what they can use in assessment type questions. So that's very powerful. It's going to be really good for our vertical conversations. That's something that I wanted to mention, and it's hyperlinked on these scope and sequence guides for them for our core. And this is a blank example for you to see what those look like. This one, it gets into actually all of the units, and this is what it looks like. This is our template. You've probably seen this before. Nothing's changed here. This is our curriculum. It gets into our essential, all the elements I just spoke to, and meeting those priority standards, supporting our learning targets, et cetera. It's hard to tell just from a screen, but each of the units, so this is just one unit, 1 week. So then we get into all the other units and all the other weeks. This is an example of and actually this is health science from the Career Center, so I wanted to include a non-core area since I had spoken to some core areas. And this includes, again, I kind of went in and snipped to this includes just from that 1 week. And of course, we would have several weeks within all of the units. So it's a lot of work and a lot of great work that the teachers have put into this in the creation stages to get to this point. So I want to thank them. So as a parent, where can you go? I myself have children in the district. Where can you go to see, a okay, my kiddo is in second grade, what are some of the big things they're gonna be looking at? So if you go to the website, marshallschools.com, there's a little button at the bottom that says curriculum. Of course, that's gonna, we're not gonna get into all of the specific components, but we're gonna get into the pacing and the scope and sequence so you can see that. And if you click on that button, it's gonna bring you to this page. And if you click on each of those areas, it'll take you to the grade level. This was something that was new, added in the last couple of years. We haven't always had this, but this is great for parents to be able to go to. You can also click on the assessment off to the left. It'll take you to a page that looks like this. It'll give you information about when our MAP and EOC results are released. Those are at fall parent-teacher conferences. Of course, if there's ever a need to receive those prior to, you can always reach out to your school building, and that's all outlined on this page, along with our assessment plan. So that's done in the fall. You guys saw that already this fall for the coming year. You'll have that again this fall. So that'll be our plan, what our timeframes are, when we give the iReady assessment, when we access test, when we have our OLSAT testing, all of the different components. And that's linked there. And that assessment plan is there for parents if they want to review that and see that. So I've went through this pretty quickly, but I wanted to give you an update. I know you had a lot to review within that. And I wanted to give you some quick highlights and things on the horizon. So I have went into specific details already this year with our iReady data. I will share the end of the year. We're actually right now in our end of the year benchmark testing for our iReady K-8. So I know elementary did theirs today. Beaker Middle School started theirs last week. So that'll wrap up this coming Friday. And we'll be able to really look at that from our beginning of the year through our end of the year. So that'll still, head into next year. We're still going to be using that. It helps us collect meaningful data for good conversations around instructional decisions and what we're seeing with that data and next steps. It also helps us with some progress monitoring that we're doing. Something new coming next year, if you see on the second bullet point there, I've been working with some groups at the high school, with the administration and some teachers, and we're going to have NWEA that we're going to be launching next year. And that is, so we kind of talked about the benchmark assessments for iReady already this year that we looked at, and iReady just takes us up through the 8th grade standards. NWEA goes, it's for high school.
Okay.
So we are going to be able to have that data that we can look at, and it's we're going to be doing that for our ELA and for our math and our science. So specifically with that, it'll also give us next steps for interventions. It's another data point. Remember, we use several different data points here. We use a triangulation of data, not just one, but it's going to give us some common assessment data that we can use and we can have in our data conversations. These are just some other things going on. The high school, they are launching a super test day here in April to work on some college and career readiness. Some other things happening, curriculum audits are going to be really hitting this fall. Math, we're going to be hitting math this fall, and we're going to be looking at resources for math too to decide K-8 if we're going to continue with that series. We're going to look through the data. Of course, that series did launch right after COVID, so some of that's going to be when we're looking through something to take into consideration, but we're going to continue those and looking through that and making instructional decisions based on the data that we're seeing. Something that I wanted to mention, the kindergarten readiness assessment, our KOF observation form, something that our early childhood has done in their curriculum. So again, we have curriculum through the Career Center. Our early childhood follows the Missouri Early Learning Standards, and they've included in their curriculum and that scope and sequence where the kindergarten readiness data those domains that we're getting scores back on, where they're including that into their curriculum. So our students that we have in our early childhood, we know exactly, of course, we have students come from lots of different places to us in kindergarten, but for the students that are enrolled here, we know where they're getting that and in our curriculum. And I think I mentioned earlier this year, but Chelsea did go to all the surrounding area preschools, and she went to some of the home-based, and she delivered some of that information to them so that they knew kind of what we were looking at coming in, and they were very thankful for that, and I thank her for doing that too and helping us out with that. Boy, I could talk a lot on our grade card work K through 4, and we're going to keep going with that next year into the other grades. but working and just looking at the proficiency scales to provide clarity on the standards and what each of those levels look like, 1, 2, 3, and 4, when we're assigning grades, and what is the evidence tied to that. So when you're going in, you're getting a grade card for your student and saying, okay, on this particular standard, in this particular area, my child was a 3. Okay, what's the evidence? What was the assessments, or what were the data points given to determine that? And so there's been a lot of work. There was a PD day on February, Gina, help me, 27th, was that when it was? On a lot of that work. And so they've hit the ground running with that this year. It's been great. Talk a lot about that. We had a full presentation just on that. But some of that's going to rope up into the other grade levels next year, and looking at that a little bit more to have more clarity. I've already set some dates for some things with our math, but our math committee is going to start meeting next year with some more vertical work. I've set some dates with some math consultants to come, and we're going to do some vertical work within our data that we receive back from our iReady, as well as our MAP and our EOC. So that's actually already on our professional development schedule, which our professional development schedule, we used our needs assessment that we gave our staff earlier this year, as well as some of the data that we have back already to develop that. And that's, it's pretty well kind of done. And when I was setting some of those dates for iReady and NWEA, and then some of the math consultant work too, they said, you can pretty much have any date you want because you're ahead of the game. Nobody else has given us any in the state yet. So that's been nice that I've got that kind of outlined already and set and going, so that's awesome. Our literacy is going to continue. I want to thank all of our teachers continuing in our letters cohorts. That is a college course essentially, and they can earn college credit for it. It is a lot of work, and it's great work, and DESE recommends it. I had a neighboring district actually reach out to us saying, hey, I've been hearing all about this, and I've been reading this Senate Bill 681, and I'm seeing you guys are on this, and could we possibly maybe join your district with some of the cohorts next year? I was like, yes, absolutely, that'd be great. And so we've had a neighboring district even reach out to see if they could come and instead of having to travel, because a lot of teachers and districts have to travel to the center for that or travel, and we have secured those dates last year and this year early, and so it'd be closer for them. And so I thought that was really awesome that word's getting out about the great things that we're doing. And we had several that already graduated with our year 2 here at Spainhauer. So congratulations to them, and it's a lot of great work. Some other things, the BIST I did want to mention. I know that Mrs. Coslet did that presentation with you all, but that is something that that has been meeting with the social matrix and curriculum. And the reason why I brought it up here with the curriculum piece was because I've been working with Mindy in that committee and helping develop some lessons and some curriculum for some beginning of the year items. So everybody within those first couple weeks is kind of going through the same thing, aligning that with our BIST and our procedures. And so some of that curriculum will be included within their lesson plans. And so if that seemed off, why that was maybe in here, that's why. And we have right now about 40 people signed up to go this summer to the week-long training. And then we're opening that up for new teachers, obviously, to come too. And so I haven't heard back on all of those pieces yet, but encouraging all of them to maybe be there as well. MTSS evaluation with all the resources, that is obviously going to continue. And then our curriculum management plan will go into effect right away. Those will be given to all of our teachers, so that system and process is clear and everybody understands, what that is and what that looks like. So, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. None of this would be possible without you guys and the administrators and the teachers and the coaches and everybody working together. We've come a long way with this. I feel like we're headed in a great direction. We have a clear vision. We know a timeline. We know the resources that we're using. And so I'm just really happy about where we're headed. And I thank you all for the time today to speak to this. So thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, you mentioned, and maybe I missed this in the report, but you mentioned some of the math vertical curriculum PD work, right? Mm-hmm. And that you're bringing in consultants?
Yeah.
Who, what for, how much, when?
Good question. And that is in the little highlights, and it's no cost to us. Okay. DESE is hiring a lot of different ELA and literacy and math consultants around the state with our central RPDC centers. And so we have two. One of them works with us, Sonia. She works with us with our letters program for ELA. And then we have two math folks coming, and it's at no cost to the district. So it's Desi is really pushing that, and for them to get out and help it. So that's super awesome to us. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's at no cost to us, and the letters is no cost to us either. So they will. This next coming year is going to be the last year for that. So that'll be something that we'll have to look at. But we've received the scholarships for all of that stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
We had this is kind of an observation, kind of part of a question. The last time we discussed this, one of the things that you impressed me with was when I met with all the instructional coaches, the alignment from building to building and grade to grade. And are we still continuing to do that? Because I really liked what I saw in that meeting with you guys.
Yeah, the vertical work.
Yeah, the vertical work, and I thought, wow, that's perfect. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah,
Because
and
we're
that.
spread out all over here, and it just, so how do we know what we taught here and here? So
Oh, yeah,
why don't you keep
absolutely.
that?
And that, especially with the scope and sequence, getting that in, like, you guys saw that with auditing
Right.
that and looking at where those holes are. And so that's actually on our, I didn't bring my PD schedule for next year yet, but I going on, I think it's October 30th. That may not be right, but it's on that PD day. So we're going to sit down and look through that and look through the data and
Yeah,
see.
especially with the year that we missed and everything. It seemed so important at the time. I just
Yeah,
wanted
yeah, that's important and go
to,
work.
is there
Yeah.
anything we could do to make sure that we stay on that?
Yeah.
In some way.
Yeah, that's embedded in the schedules, so, yep. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Laura. I know I teased you about a long report, but curriculum is very important. It's what we're really here for, educating kids and making sure they have those opportunities. So I'm glad to see a long report there. I'm glad to see it spelled out to me, and I can see where you're going in action. So I know the community has pressed a lot and talked to us about, where are we going with curriculum and turning it around, and you can kind of see some of the alignment, some of the changes, and the way that we're trying to get on an upward trend with that. So thank you for explaining that. Mr. Woodering, Safety and Security Coordinator.
Good afternoon. Still on, can you hear me?
She turned it off.
Okay, there you
There
go. All right, first off, I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to work in this position. Mr. Pettit and Mr. Ranky and I had a meeting back in September of last year, and we kind of talked through some things about how I would like to help out a little bit more around the district and some things that we might need. They brought this situation to me back in September, November, and we started talking, and now it's kind of led to this. And I am very appreciative. I know with safety and security, there's all the eyes that we can have in the district are very helpful. Just in this short time, I've been able to go to the MSBA's Center for Educational Safety. I worked through an academy with them for 20 hours in Jeff City to get my school safety specialist. And with that, they offer us the emergency operation plans that we'll be working through this year. Those emergency operation plans will be for every school building. It's a living document. It will help each administrator, counselor, myself, and all of our SROs work through situations within the school district, whatever they may be, the fires, the evacuation drills, our active shooters, any type of lockdown situation. We will have a pamphlet there to support us and help us know what we should do next. In those times, sometimes it's a little bit scary, so being prepared and being as prepared as we possibly can is the biggest help for all of us. That emergency operation plan is a free program to our district for the first 2 years. After that, it will be a small fee to each building that we have. Right now, we have 9 buildings in the district that we will have on this emergency operation plan. Moving forward, of course, with our plans, things will change a little bit and that number will come down. So hope that works as well. Some of the things that we will be working on today. I went through this safety locking system. I talked with Mr. Pettit, Mr. Ranky about some of the things that we could do right away to kind of help our school district. The first thing we have is just it's a DK Safety Solutions with Z-Lock. Jason Persley came in and worked with me. We went around the district. We went around to every building, Butterfield, the Tom Butterfield Center, Beaker, High School, Northwest, and Benton, just to kind of get an idea. Approximately 247 doors in this district to lock down. I think here's what his little situation looks like.
In a lockdown situation, second command.
Teachers code red.
Hey guys, to the corner.
Okay, and then, as you can see in this second one, this is what the actual Z-Lock looks like. Mr. Persley is a administrator at Skyline School District, so he uses this in his school district himself. He creates them. He will actually even help us in the installation of things. Here's his prices according to what we would be looking at in our district. MHS and Saline County are grouped there together. The first number is the price per lock within the building. The second price is what he would charge for our installation, and the third price is the total. As you can see there, MHS, BMS are our two biggest buildings. Approximately 75 and 71 locks just in those two buildings themselves. As you can tell, Spain Hire, Northwest, Benton, some of our smaller buildings would have less locks, but their cost is still significant there. Again, down at the bottom, a total cost for the district, $13,585 for those 247 locks. And like I said, Mr. Persley and Mike would both come in and help install those for approximately $10 a door. The next one was a global industrial locking system. This one's called the Barracuda. This was only for outward swinging doors. Wesley, if you can go ahead and hit that hyperlink for me. So you can get a kind of an idea of what this looks like. And you can zoom in on the door there. You'll see it is a fork that goes across the doorknob. It goes on the outward swinging door, so this would be inside. It would lock the door handle in place, where if someone tried to pull it, it would basically be pulling and the resistance would be against that door handle. This in itself is $167 per unit, which is a significant price. The installation would all be up to Marshall Public Schools, so therefore we would have to do this ourselves. It just comes in a handle form, and you know it's pretty bulky, as you can tell, but it still does the same thing as the Z-Lock. Okay, if you can go back there, Wesley. Okay, pricing on the Barracuda system, as you can see, is quite significant. Just for MHS and Saline County, we're looking at almost $13,000 for that building, plus a shipping fee of $310. That's not including what we would actually pay our maintenance to assemble and to prepare all of these in the actual buildings. It wouldn't take a lot of time, but as you can see, the total price down there, $42,000 for 247 locks. The third one is the teacher lock system. This is a rather bulky system. Again, self-maintenance. We would have to do this ourselves. It's $275 per locking system. Again, if we go through, that is pretty significant amount of price. You're looking at $20,000 just for the high school. In total, we're looking at, for the 247 locks, $67,925. That's not including shipping and the maintenance that we would have to do on these locks ourselves. Overall, I think, the Z-Lock, which we work with the first one there, I think the efficiency of it, the price of it, it is very feasible for our school district. It is also something that will go from door to door. So whenever we do establish new buildings in our district, we can take these off and put them on the new doors that are in our buildings. If something happens with one door, we can take it off and put it on another door, as long as it matches up, whether it's the inward swinging or the outward swinging. All it becomes is just a 3.5 or a 4-inch dimension on a door frame. As long as those door frames stay the same, the locks are perfectly configured for all of them. So that's all I have for you guys. Again, thank you for letting me help you out and
Could I
get
see
some of this. Go ahead.
I'd like to see the Z-Lock one more time.
Yeah, I'm going to have a few questions for you too, Mr. Wheeler.
Yeah, because the teacher's got to go to the door to lock that.
Right.
I am more concerned that they cannot open the door once the door is closed.
In a lockdown situation, seconds matter.
Teachers code red. Teachers code red.
Hey, guys, to the corner.
That's an outward swinging door. So that Z-Lock sits in position there.
I'm playing devil's advocate here, being in that classroom. That door could have been opened. That Z-Lock would have been no help whatsoever if that door had been opened by someone from the outside who wanted to get into my classroom. I'm more concerned.
You mean from wanting to come inside from the outside, like there?
Is the door locked now?
No.
No, not.
Then that Z-Lock, until I get to the door, that Z-Lock is not going to help me. And then that Z-Lock is only going to be as good as the door jamb there.
All of these mechanisms that you showed us require the teacher within the classroom, for lack of a better term, to activate it, correct?
Right, correct.
So none of these are like electromagnet type locks that something could be automatically pushed in the office and will automatically lock these doors down. All these are mechanical devices of different types of shapes, whether they're going all the way across the door with the larger bar or with the smaller Z-Lock system, which seems to be taking up more of a 6 to 10 inch type space on the door.
Correct.
Which
Yeah.
the teacher lock looked like it was very similar as well.
Right.
Are there any efficiency issues with any of these, or recommendations, like are some better than others? I mean,
Can
I
I-
know that
yeah.
the cost process is a lot different from 15,000 to 65,000, but are we talking about a Cadillac and a Chevy, or are we talking about, we're looking at a bunch of similar type of products?
And I really want to make a larger point that connects directly to Mr. Jakes' point. So, hi, my name's Erin. I started the Safety and Security Task Force here. We didn't finish it. The month we were supposed to finish it, we closed down for COVID.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so a couple of us on this board are familiar with doing a lot of the legwork behind some of these issues, right? So, and as part of the advisory committee for the Center for Education Safety, I've sat in a lot of vendor pitches, right? And I know that this sector is rife with vendors who would like very much to start with scaring you into motivating a purchase for something that you might not necessarily take the time to, like shop around for options on, right? Because there's a sense of urgency there. I understand that what we're trying to do here is triage a situation, right? We've got doors that are not, that we need to fortify, that we need to reinforce. I very much understand that. And I know that you are trying to find the most affordable option to do that. But I think what you're hearing here is that, A, either we haven't done the legwork that you've done to know that these are the best options, or B, we do not know that these are the best options, right? And so some of my questions, like I'm just going through, looking at some of the things that are in my email inbox from a million different vendors about similar sorts of things. So I think before any of us I know that this is a first reading on spending $15,000 on
Correct.
essentially like clamp on door locks. I think before any of us are really very excited about that, we're gonna need to see the homework behind it. And I don't think that's too much to ask, even though I know that we are trying to move very quickly to get our students into more safe conditions. And there is, I'm not going to say there's no one here more interested in that, but I'm very interested in moving in that direction. I just want to make sure that we have options here that aren't just presented as a fait accompli. This is what we are doing, and this is how we are doing it. And what you're seeing here are questions from people who are very motivated to keep students safe, but want to make sure that we're doing that with the best possible options, especially because we do have such a variety of doors. We've got such a variety of capabilities, too, people having to run across the classroom and things like that. These are all things to consider and discuss. So,
Correct. And I totally understand that, like when I said at the beginning. It takes all of us to really look at this situation and figure out what's the best. Like you said, with the doors, one of the problems or the issues that we're going to have to be moving forward with is the doors at Beaker Middle School. We have several doors in that building that are pane glass, which will provide a problem no matter what system we are putting on the door.
and so then we're buying several $100s of things that may become, I don't know. I don't know enough about this mechanism to know if it's universal.
Well, I do know the Z-Lock is universal. It will fit as long as the door frame is correctly and it's the same door frame, it will go on.
Awesome. I'd like to see 3 of its competitors.
The big
and their
Barracuda
pricing.
as well. Barracuda sits out, it's an outward lock. So it just sits on the door frame itself.
And I'd like to know what other
latches to that.
which other districts have used these? How much have they, has it been a good thing for that? Have their teachers been able to use them in drills, things like that? Can we start with a smaller purchase, perhaps to give them a test run, et cetera, because buying these kinds of things in bulk and just assuming that it's going to fix all of our problems entirely rarely works out well, and it's much better to have a test run if possible.
And I'll be glad to, I'll bring a lot of that to you guys from here. I've just got Greg doing the legwork initially up front to show you what's out there, so.
Okay. And see,
Are we, as part of our levy, we said safety and soundness, are we going to work toward the outside doors having that stuff on, and this becomes a secondary situation? Because we heard the loudspeaker say code red. Well, that gives the teacher, if they're on the ball, which most teachers are, that time to get to the door and slam that in and their kids are there. Now, maybe that person got through the first step of our bulletproof glass and stuff we've got at the front doors.
And it could be, Jack, that what we're discussing here is, like I said, a triage situation where we're trying to fortify inside because what their plan for fortifying the outer doors, it's going to take more time, or I am presuming and assuming, because I don't think it was articulated, but I would assume that we're trying to fortify these interior doors because it's going to take time to get the things we would need to fortify those outside doors.
Yes, and I agree with that.
But
this is
that's
kind
only
of
my
a
assumption.
stopgap measure. It gives us some good protection till we get those outside doors done.
But those should be our top priority. Yeah, it makes sense.
So to sum things up, I think we're in the position of, we definitely want to make sure we get some more safety and security features in our district, as we said we were, and as you're bringing to us. And I think we just need to just have just a few more options to look through those overall as well, because I realize our outside doors are more
Vulnerable.
fortified currently, as far as with the electric locks on them, or those things where you have to be buzzed in, and it's a little different system on the outside door. But once you get in, we do have a lot of various issues. I was thinking about the high school, for instance, where we have some rooms that don't even have traditional doors, you know, so
And
this
some of the-
isn't going to
I believe
work
that door there has glass on it.
maybe in a
Yeah.
in a
If that's
certain area.
glass above the lock, it's, the Z-lock's not gonna do anything.
Well,
once
and a
it
lot of
breaks
that,
the glass.
we'll talk to you, like, you actually have to have an observation window and things like that.
Yeah.
So bring a lot of that to you next month. That'll be no problem.
Okay, good. Hey, I'm for this, but I'm just.
Absolutely.
We need to.
Absolutely.
We're just spending once and spending it the right way, hopefully.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And I do like the idea that there are some buildings in the district that
I would
could
feel better
potentially
once I
use
got-
these
if
off
I
the
had the
bat.
Z-lock,
There's
I
some
could
that this
put
may
myself in
not
that
work for
classroom.
at all.
That's right. Oh, which is why not looking at it as a universal solution is, I would submit, more productive, right? And so buying in smaller batches to test run in those places that we need them the most would seem to me to be the smartest approach. I'm happy to be told elsewise, but, yeah. And that course is no joke, isn't it? So congratulations for participating in that and being a graduate.
It was.
We've got
pretty
two of you
overwhelming.
now in the district, I think. Sam Gibson is also graduated from that program. So that's great for us. Some districts don't have anybody.
And I'm glad we're taking advantage of the MSBA money or non-money for, you know, partnering with us to work through these as well. So I mentioned it to Mr. Pettit before, and he said, thank
Yes.
Greg's on that when he's going through his curriculum. So I'm glad we're going to be able to get some more expert advice at a free rate. We already pay to go to MSBA, and it's kind of a freebie that we get back for them. So thank you for your time and your first meeting.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir. We'll have plenty more to go.
While David's getting set up, I was supposed to go with Greg, and then with the levy and different things going on, I ended up stranding him on that, and I actually haven't even had a meeting with him in probably a month and a half. He's really just taken the ball and run hard with it. He's done a great job, so
Good for
pretty
him.
excited about what he's gonna be able to do for us.
Mr. Rinky of the Assistant Superintendent Report.
Okay. Hope everybody's having a good evening. I'll try to keep mine a little shorter and sweeter tonight. I know we're running a little bit long, but there's a lot of good stuff that we're going to get over. So, in my report tonight, some happenings. Later on in the agenda, you will see an action item for our bank depository bids and selection. This one won't take very long. I would like to kind of hit on our high school fire insurance reimbursement, getting some things wrapped up there and getting that done. I want to talk about some open RFPs we have out there for some work that we are trying to do in the district, just so you guys are aware of that. Going to talk a little bit about the levy, some of the next steps, and then an update on the Butterfield Early Childhood Wing. So first of all, as I said, the next thing in your action item, it's to approve the bid for where we do our banking services in Marshall Public Schools. This is pretty simple. We had one bid come in this year, and this is for a 2-year period. It begins on July 1st, 2023. So the one bid we received is from the Exchange Bank of Missouri. This is where we currently have our banking services. So they've done a good job. Oh, and this is also in our RFP when we put out there, we want interest on some of that money. So currently we are at a rate of, I think it says 0.50, or what did I have here?
0.9.
It's 0.56 right now, and then they're proposing for 0.90 on 91-day T-bills. So I'm going to recommend, especially since this is our only bid, we go with Exchange Bank Missouri when we get to that portion of our meeting. So does anybody have any questions on that?
That's pretty cut and dry, thank you.
Okay, so Our high school fire, our insurance update, this seems like it's dragging out. It's been a long time, and when Mr. Pettit and myself came in, we came in kind of the middle of it. But just kind of give an update, we did get our final insurance reimbursement. That is in the amount of $1,200,000. Man, my eyes are going bad. $1,203,000.
No, your font, honey, your font. We've got to use 30.5.
Okay, I'm gonna work on that.
Everybody.
I'm gonna work on that.
Big screen, 30-point font.
Yes, you have to be able to read it from across the room.
So $1,203,373.93. That is going to be our final insurance reimbursement. And so just kind of a 10,000-foot view on this. We did clean it up a lot. We got everything put together. Had a lot of help from Jennifer Smith and Carol Embry to get that. That wasn't all me. So there was a lot of stuff out there. But if you can see, the total cost of the fire is going to end up being $3 million, $3,071,985.83. The insurance reimbursement is $2,376,092.99. So that's what we got back from the insurance reimbursement. This is actually over, both of these are over 2 fiscal years. So the extra work that the district did, such as the flooring, LED lighting, the upgrade of the lighting, the ceiling tiles, and the fire alarm upgrade, was about $695,000, $892. So that gives a 10,000-foot view of what the insurance, what the fire cost, and what the insurance reimbursed the district. So we have a great big breakdown. I'll be happy to sit down with anybody and go over that. But does anybody have any questions on that? Okay.
I just want to see the smaller breakdown when you get to it, just so I can see exactly what the fire alarm cost and some other things, because just public-wise, the fire alarm upgrade, as he's saying, was a true fire alarm addition.
It's about $300,000.
Okay.
The fire
So
alarm.
I was thinking that was about half of that total.
Yes.
Just for the added security of a fire situation or a fire alarm that actually was going to work and alert everyone in the building of something going off whenever it occurred, so.
Okay. Okay, moving on. So some RFP is what we have open. This is just for an FYI, some knowledge. We are looking at, and these are all going to be posted in the next week, but we're looking to put signage out at the Butterfield Early Childhood Center and the administration offices. So we want to get the signs changed over. So we're going to be going out for bids on that. With Southeast closing down, we would like to move some of that playground equipment. So we're going to get some bids and prices on moving that.
We can't do that ourselves?
No.
No, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be moving.
Especially with insurance. We
All right,
would
that
want to
makes
get a
sense.
professional
Yeah.
company to do that.
And there's some
Then they're
warranties
bonded,
that
and if
wouldn't
you
work
break
with
it,
that as well.
There's warranties, and then
If
there's
you
the-
break a jungle gym, then they're. all
right,
Good.
and the liabilities of the install.
And if one of our kids jumps on it and it swings sideways because we didn't bolt it down correctly, the liability is on the district versus the installer.
Thank you. I knew there was a reason we reelected you, but I can't think of what it was.
So,
That is the only one. I'm done for the year.
Resealing and striping of the Butterfield campus parking lot. We'd like to get that done and cleaned up. We're going to put a concrete sidewalk between the high school and the new alternative school building, which is the old central office. We think that will be a benefit in the next coming year. And then looking at carpeting the Butterfield campus in the Hoot House and putting in the Hoot House and the PAT areas. So putting in some carpet for them. So those are some things that we're working on that I'm going to put out there. And then in the next month or two, we'll probably bring some of these back for approval from the Board of Education. Okay, so now the levy passed, what are some of the next steps? I'm going to tell you some of the processes. I know Mr. Pettit here in his report is going to talk on some of the actual finances, but just kind of give a brief overview of what happens now. So now that we know what direction we're going, we're going to set up our roadmap. So last Wednesday, we brought together Insight Design, Raymond James, and Navitas, the companies that we have been working with in getting our plan together. So, and I'm going to go over a timeline in my next slide. But what we will do, the first thing that Insight Design needs to do, now they know what we have to work with, is they'll be finishing the long-range facility plan. Their hope is to have this done by probably late May, beginning of June, and bringing that and reporting to the Board of Education. So some of the things that they're going to do in their next steps, talking to Aaron that has been working with our district, will be coming in and he's probably going to do one more community kind of questioning, have the community come in and see what the thoughts are still, on a new building and the safety and security. Just give more time for people that haven't had a chance to express their voices. And then they'll be working with our administration and some of our staff and our teachers and getting input from that. And then also probably be working with the board in there. We got to get all that scheduled. So he's still got some work to do, some things to put together, and then to finish our long-range facility plan. So, and that's what he'll schedule some more fact-finding with everything. One other thing that just to be aware of as a Board of Education in our community that we'll be talking about coming up and that the Board of Education is going to have to decide moving forward. When Insight Design comes back with our long-range facility plan and we have a really great direction, we are going to have to decide between a construction manager or just taking hard bids. And this is something I'll bring more information, or Mr. Pettit will bring more information as we move forward. But I just want to get it on people's minds. There's benefits and negatives to both as we move forward. The scope to some of the projects and with this being, we're going to go that 3 through 5 building, but we are also doing some of those outside doors for security, some vestibules we want to do. And then they'll put all that together, and then that will allow, the construction manager versus the hard bids. It's going to be a pretty good scope to this project, I believe. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to take into consideration moving forward. There it goes. So here's a quick timeline. You do have this is a tentative timeline in your packet. And you need to make this bigger font. Definitely sorry. I can't see that one. But I can just kind of read through some dates, and this is what last Wednesday Aaron threw out there to us from Insight Design and working with Raymond James. So coming up, we are going to go through that process of him coming back and then having the long-range facility plan, like I said, done the end of May, beginning of June. Design and development of the buildings and what we're going to do moving forward. That process will probably start in July and go through September. And then the process of getting, whether we go that construction manager or the hard bids, of starting to look at those, what's going to come in, start putting that together, and that will probably go through all next December. So when we really start the construction of the building and a lot of these projects, you're looking at it's probably going to be about next December before we really start hitting things hard. We want to make sure that we have a good plan, and we really do, and working with the architects. I just don't want to jump into something. Let's have a good plan. Let's get some more community feedback. Have the Board of Education have everything ready and be comfortable before we move forward with everything. So. Does anybody have any questions on that? All right. And the last thing, there's just some pictures. The update on the Butterfield Early Childhood Center construction. It's going very well. The tiles going in. You can see down the hallway. All the hallways are done, and they're spreading out into the classrooms. So it's looking really good. I'm really pleased with the process and the progress that we have going on there. Does anybody have any questions on anything for me? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. After the Butterfield project is completed prior to the school year, we do plan on inviting the community to come back out and see what changes were made to the building as well. So for those of you who haven't made it out there, or possibly even haven't seen the addition here, we'll be talking about those things, maybe with Aaron, to see if we need to come into this building as well, because we opened this building during COVID, so there was never an official opening here as well.
While he's setting up, I do have a quote. Why did the other banks not respond to your RFP? You have any idea?
I do not know the answer to that, Harry.
Because, I mean, in the past, we've had all three banks, and we've always kind of moved it around, so.
I too was surprised that we just had one bidder.
Huh?
I was surprised too that we only had one bidder, but it may not be something that they chose to
Yeah.
to endeavor in at this time. So I know our banks are very supportive of us as a community and us as a district, so I'm just going to leave it at that. So.
Well, thanks for being here still. It's been a long night. I appreciate your patience with us. When a lot of things are going on, there's a lot to talk about, and I know that the devil can be in the details, but I'm excited about all the stuff that's going on. I want to say, first of all, just in case anybody's still listening at home and is still awake here, we passed a levy. I think that's pretty awesome. I'm really appreciative of our community support, our board's hard work, our staff and administration's hard work and patience and sacrifice. I think it's really, really exciting. And a lot of what we're getting into now with all these reports tonight is the responsibility that comes with the honor we've had to be able to get that support and move into the future. I also want to thank Scott Fan for coming tonight. He also and the park board had allowed me to come and speak to them. I think there's a lot of opportunities for partnerships moving into the future with some of the builds and plans we make. Those are some of the kinds of plannings and things that we need to again, being fiscally responsible, we have a lot of taxpayer support. We need to make sure, kind of like with the safety and security and Dr. Meyer's plans, we need to be thoughtful in how we take our first steps. And I absolutely agree with that as we think about how we build and do what we promise to do. That's the most important thing, that we keep our word and we do things thoughtfully. A lot of things in that vein I'll discuss tonight, and some other thank yous I'm probably forgetting that I had meant to mention, but I'm going to keep moving tonight because I know that you've been busy. I don't expect you to read that. I'm going to tell you what it is in jest. And that is simply that we're going to talk about budget development stuff tonight. Really, really exciting topic. I could tell when I said it this late in the evening, you guys would probably jump up a little bit. The truth is, I'm just giving you the 10,000-foot view tonight about what we have ahead of us, not only in creating next year's budget, but some of the financial implications of the passing of the levy. And it's going to be, again, very, very important that we're transparent, we're methodical, and we speak out in public a lot about what we're thinking and doing. This is really specific to our budget development for the 23-24 school year, and there's been now some changes. At one point we were looking at a major deficit, now we're looking at a levy passed, but how we're going to spend that money. So just I'm going to tell you just what to expect between March and June. I'm starting information sharing with the Board of Education tonight in April, and I'll be doing so through June when I bring to you a budget to pass. And there's going to be like a series of times and moments and points where I get board input on all of that. And there's going to be a lot of staff input, and already has been a lot of survey input on much of that too. Next month in May, the legislative session ends about mid-May. The state budget then gets finalized and the impacts to public education will be known. That's always really important, especially post-COVID-19 with all of the COVID provisions that impacted budgets and a lot of things that we're still writing on. We have passed a levy, but I want to stress to the public and to the board tonight, though we've passed a levy, we are writing on a financial system, specifically with our weighted average daily attendance, that goes back to 2020. And if that funding changes, if that provision goes away, the levy was passed for a certain reason, that we promised to do what we said we would do with that. We still have to be really, really careful with the rest of our budget and see what happens at the state level. So I'm not rushing this. I'm just getting into the information with you guys tonight as directed by our governance plan. The budget recommendation is going to come to the Board of Education in June for approval, and that's the things you can anticipate out of that. Other things you can anticipate is that next month I am going to have a longer presentation, and it's all going to be budget development stuff for both the board and the public, which is where we're going to really get into the, Grandma used to call it the meat and potatoes of what we're doing here. We're going to get into all of those weeds next month. Now, good news for my presentation tonight, I'm going to talk a little more budget, and then I'm going to pinball and jump around to several other items of discussion, and intentionally going fast. The salary schedule considerations, I have spoken with our teacher representations, our union groups. I have done whole staff surveys. That did not go up on your screen, I'm sorry. Let me keep you with me here. And I anticipate that we will be discussing things like this next month, and I have shared this with CTA and the teachers a little bit as it develops. Though we've been a bit distracted the last couple of months, it's getting back to teaching, learning, and salary stuff. I anticipate that we'll be talking about 2% being considered for the base for our certified staff. 2% of our base is about $780. The impact of that, these are the kinds of numbers I'll bring you. So again, I'm sharing this now informationally so you can get your questions ready for a much bigger presentation next month, and so that our staff and community can hear it and get their questions ready too. If we were to put 2% on our base, we would take it from $39,000 to $39,780. And the impact to the district financially with the preliminary numbers that I have, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this change slightly, $341,000, and I'm rounding. If we do the same thing with our classified, I have not ran through all of that yet because I need to figure out the right approach, and Mr. Ranke's been collecting some input from the classified folks. So again, this is just where we are in our work, and forgive the information I don't have, but I just want you to understand kind of what's happening. Counselor contracts, they came and presented tonight. There is a lot of movement with counselors because of building restructuring and movement from all of the things we're doing, closing buildings, building buildings, and buying buildings. That said, they have had contract structures where they have like a teacher salary, and then they get an extended school year contract, almost like an extra duty contract. I've been discussing with them some two-way street expectations, that perhaps they go more to a X number of weeks, months, and there would be some various expectations that come along with that too, and we could look at their salary schedule as a collective salary schedule for counselors specifically, not like a certified schedule and an extended contract. So those conversations have been fruitful so far, but I haven't actually landed the plane. That's more of the work that's being done. And the other thing that we've got some numbers being built on is our benefits. This would be your employee health benefit package, insurance, health insurance, 5.5% increase that we anticipate coming from them this year. Not anticipate, we know that's what the increase is going to be. The decision is, will we as a district pick up the tab? That's something Mr. Ranke and I, Mr. Ranke particularly, really wanted to find the time to dig way further into that and options. You just can't do it all at once. And we felt from our conversations with the CTA that it wasn't a high priority to them that we necessarily go shopping. So we've had to look at, well, if we pick up that cost, and we know from the teacher evaluations that they have a pretty large interest from the staff survey for us to continue to cover that, it would be about $150,000 impact to the district. So more of the things that we've got to figure out as we create a budget message for you. Now, speaking of money, let's try to transition into some other things. And some of this, I'm not going to be redundant. When you see the fire, I'm not going to give you the same information Mr. Ranke did. I'm just going to go really fast through how this impacts our financial positions. So you've got fire money. You've got amendments to the budget, which I'll talk about a little bit next. And then just, oh my, how does all this impact our budget decisions? And it's a crazy time to create a transparent budget with a board and with the public when you have these huge influxes into your district revenue, but they are not long-term sustaining revenues. So we've got to think long range where we're going and how we use it. So you got the $3 million fire. We now know, and it took a lot of time to land all the planes. Mr. Ranke did a lot of work. We've had consultants do a lot of work, tracking down a lot of those dollars and cents. As a district, we haven't, in the last several years, we haven't budgeted the way that I would feel more comfortable post-COVID. We've done something that's kind of referenced as zero-based budgeting. And what that means is we would roll over last year's expenditures and we would try to run off of what we spent last year with how we're going to spend this year. That has some value, and it has some things that may not work so well when you have all the fires and the COVID and all these different things, because to spend the way you did last year with a fire, with COVID, you can't anticipate you'll be able to do that again. So what does that mean? We have ran our accounts negative this year, and we did it in this way. When we started this fall, basically we just had rolled over what we spent last year. I told administrators and directors of departments, heads, okay, let's be frugal. Let's have conversations about large purchases. We're going to run those into the red for a certain time so that we can understand why we did it, what we bought, why we bought it. And then when we actually flush it up, when we make it black or even and not red, negative spending, then we're going to understand why we spent what we spent. And the budget we're building right now together is going to be based on how we spent this year and why we spent that way. So it's led to a lot of conversations. In fact, back in, I think, around September, about every administrator and myself sat down and looked at their budget and talked about the numbers they had and why. And then recently, and the poor administrative team, I said, I think it was in the March admin meeting, I said, hey guys, I kind of need you to stop spending money now. It's time to flush up the accounts and figure out where we are. It's pretty hard as an administrator running a building to be told at the end of the year as you're preparing for the next, don't spend any money unless you have to. And that's exactly what I asked them to do. So there has been a lot of sacrifice by our admin team. But I'm really excited to see how we build next year's budget, and I think we're going to be well informed for why we're picking the numbers and the budgets that we do. And we're going to start out with our numbers in the black, and that's going to be everybody's goal to stay that way. And we'll make mistakes and make some adjustments next year as we do. Did I bore you to death yet or confuse you with any of that? Or you have any questions before I go on to something else that's hopefully more entertaining? Okay. Fund balance. Right now, as you've made some amendments tonight, we're around about 19.5% as a reserve. You know that we've set a goal of 20. The insurance money has come in, that $1.2 million, the final check has come in. Don't believe it's reflected in that balance amount. So I anticipate that we'll be sticking with our goal and our 20% reserve. And there's a lot of other moving pieces and things coming in. So we also still need, last three things on the right side, we need to plot the course for the levy, decide the fate of our buildings, and we need to finalize our long-range facility plan. That's all been covered. So let me just move on to something else. Let's talk about the fact that the levy's passed. So you have 4 funds that the district operates out of in terms of their expenditures. We can spend our money out of funds, 4 of them. The levy passing is going to have implications on how we create that new budget as well. We're going to have some potential to have debt service, operating, and capital, three of the 4. So there's some pros with that. Obviously, the levy passed, and we've got funds now coming into our planning. We can strategize and plan for the future. But I said this when I started, we have a really huge responsibility to make good projections for where our district's going to be in the years ahead, how we operate with these funds, and what we do with them. And so that's where we go next month as I go a really deep dive into the levy. All right, I'm going to transition one more time. This one might be a more entertaining topic. If I know that it can be boring with that. Don't expect you to read that again. I've conveyed this to the Board of Education. I'm just going to verbally share this with the public and say that, so we have Southeast Elementary School. We know that we're going to decommission that building. It's time to decide what to do with it. The long and the short of what this says in this slide for our public to hear is that as a Board of Education, you have 2 choices for how to part ways with that building in terms of if we're going to open it up to other owners. Our policy says that, long and the short, is that we need to declare that building a surplus property. And you can first do so by authorizing a real estate agent, or second, you can sell the property as it is to the highest bidder if you're going to sell it. Now, we campaign and we've talked a lot about what we do with these buildings in the interest of the public, the community at large, and the future of Marshall, and thinking about the people who live around it. So two things here to talk about. Well, really just one thing, I guess. There's 2 things to consider, but one thing that I think is of great value, and that is my recommendation that's a little easier to see. If we declare Southeast Elementary as a surplus property today, then I believe we can and should do the following, which brings our community into the fold, and making the motion to declare it as a surplus property today, an action item we have later. It does not commit us to anything yet. It opens up our options for what we do. And I promise you that I want to do what our public wants us to do. I think that if the board sees fit to take my motion later to recommend it as surplus property, it's going to let us then get on the road to, can we sell it, to whom can we sell it, and what purpose is that building going to serve in the community after we do so? Because I believe our community wants us to take responsibility for what happens to it and that it's in the best interest of the community. I think if you will surplus that property today, the second thing I recommend is that we schedule another community forum. This is not with Insight Design. This is as us, as Marshall Public Schools at Southeast Elementary. We invite the people who live there, the community at large, and we ask them, come tell us what you do not want us to do that with that building. We've told you the following things are important to us for our goals. We want to hear what are important to you. And with that public input, we could come back to the May meeting, and following our policy, we could move forward, and this will be my recommendation, we could move forward listing it with a real estate agent as opposed to a sealed bid process. With a sealed bid process, you have to take the highest bidder. And the highest bidder may have intents or purposes with that building that we do not want. If we instead list it with the realtor, it's not about the highest bidder, it's about exactly what are you going to do with it. We can put deed restrictions, and we can say these are the things we do not want to happen based on our community input. And then the other thing you can put on it is a time limit. If you buy that building and you say you're going to do something that the community and the Board of Education loves, and you haven't done it in X number of months, say 12 months, then it comes back to the Marshall Public Schools, because we did promise our public we were going to do everything we could to not have more blighted properties standing around. And we don't want to be driving down property values of the properties around. So my recommendation is going to be that we declare Southeast as surplus property tonight, that we schedule a community forum at Southeast in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and by next meeting, we know what sort of deed restrictions and desires the public would have, and then let's find out if anybody even would buy it with all of that involved. Does anybody want it to serve the purposes we promised the public? And if not, then we come back together and we talk some more. Just really want to make sure we do what we told the public we would do. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns with that recommendation?
You think just one forum will do it?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's certainly something that if we have a room full and everybody doesn't have a chance to be heard, I think we should keep having them until we know that the community's been heard. And if 12 people come, then maybe it's enough. But I definitely want the public to feel like they got heard. It's a good question, Dr. Meyer. Okay, let's shift gears again. Told you I'd be bouncing around. The Board of Education tonight has in first reading form, and I promise you that is rough form, they have handbooks first reading because it is a massive body of work. Our administrators know so firsthand. My intention is that the Board of Education starts seeing those now in April. And they have everything to read through in their electronic folder of documents, packet of documents, except for the employee manual. We should hopefully have that in your packet by next month. That one's being tricky. And embedded in the middle school and high school are athletics and career center handbook items. Then you've got your parent-student handbooks for the elementary division, middle school division, and high school division. And my hope is that we will be approving these in June with our second and final reading in May. It's been a lot of work. I wish I had it to you a month ago, but it's been days and days of work with all the administrators, and they all have one more day of work yet again on the first readings that you can see. I want their eyes on it one more time to look for things that have been overlooked. Okay. So let's jump again. The levy passed. Let's talk about the land out here by SPS. The city holds more property near this building at SPS. MPS probably needs to 100% think about how we address the accessibility of this building, Spainhauer, and the new building we build near this location. So I'll be moving forward with the city as I had promised them I would, that if the levy passed, I'd be coming to them to talk about their land, about their plans, talk to them and be transparent about our plans, and just see where we get with that. If there's some fruitful relationship that can be started and worked through. I do not know what that means, but that is the next step, and the city's not going to be surprised by that. I've been being as transparent about that with them as I could. Currently out here, we have only one way in and one way out. Architects and engineers can come up with fantastic ways for traffic to flow that way, but it's ideal to have one way in and a different way out. So that's kind of the angle I'm wanting to take to the city, see what they have to offer for me to bring back to you as a Board of Education here. I have a graphic that is not high tech. That is an aerial view from Google of this property, and it's harder for us as the board to see, but I think at home it's pretty visible. I will tell you that at the bottom of the screen there in the left-hand corner, you can see the big loop. And so often we talk about the inner loop out here near Spainhauer, and that's because of the road that literally does do a loop, and the district does own inside that loop. Spainhauer is cut off there at the bottom of the screen. You can't actually see all of it because I'm focusing on the land at large and my big blue question marks that I penciled in with a mouse. That's all this land that's around us. And then, of course, there's also our entrances over there near Lincoln Street. I think that's the discussions we need to have, and not trying to be greedy or self-serving, but we just need another way out, ideally. Is there some way we can look at this land and property around us? And then the truth is, I am not an architect or an engineer. Whatever the city may or may not have to offer or discuss, we need to talk to engineers for them to say that's a terrible idea or that's maybe got some merit. So again, just something to talk about, think about, be transparent, and probably get some input from the public at large, as well as the city. Any questions or thoughts there?
I'm assuming, I know you're having conversations with Insight, and they've seen some of that property. Have they suggested or anything at this point, or because they're not that far into the process, they haven't really came to that point to kind of say what we should ask?
We've had some discussions, but the first thing they reassured us was, well, if you can't get any more land, we can design a fantastic way for your traffic to flow, because they're engineers and architects, and I think they find that challenge thrilling. But I'm hoping that we don't have to challenge them in that way.
Okay.
So we haven't gotten too far in the weeds past that. All right. We're going to shift gears again, because there's a lot of things left to do and not a lot left this school year to get it done. Board meeting dates and locations. This will come up as an action item. I just want to go ahead and bring it up now, and I think we can fly through the action items. Currently, the fourth Tuesday of each month is when the Board of Education meets. We've had a lot of conflicts, some of those because of statutory requirements, like tonight's meeting had to be, it needed to be moved. Tomorrow night was the latest we could have certified the election results by statutory requirement. And then you have graduations late in May and a lot of other things. So we're going to propose for you guys to think about tonight, and that is that we start maybe to consider moving from the fourth Tuesday to the second Tuesday of the month, because we're going to have to move the May meeting anyway, and we could just continue that through next year. So in your board packets that Ms. Reno's put together, she's put together a proposed new meeting time for next school year and from now forward towards that, because of conflicts we have anyway, that we go to the second Tuesday of the month. And location, possibly, because this depends on so many things that are out of our control, that we consider our location being moved to the Butterfield campus cafeteria like we do in the cafeteria here. It has its own access point, and there would be some value in that. Get the public into that building the way that we've got the public into this building to see the good things going on. That was all covered by Ms. Jacoby, and I'm going to close with this. I think I closed, yeah.
May I make a
You
comment?
please do, yes, sir.
If you went through the check register that comes in the packet, there's usually 25 pages, and this is real short. There was no payroll in this report that we got in our packet. Evidently, in the past, they wanted that to be included for the board. By moving it early, and that's okay, I'm not against moving it early, but realize that your checks that you are looking at are going to be a month behind.
Yeah. You're exactly right. It used to be extremely common practice for your meetings to be late in the month. Many districts used to do that. And it's kind of like your principal's reports, to give you a metaphor for it. It's a lot easier to look at the month back and give you concrete, this is what's going on. Kind of like, look, the reserve, that's 19.5% today, but tomorrow when we go in the office, it might be 21.5% because we deposited that insurance check. So with the financial stuff, it's just almost easier to let a month close and give you this is absolutely what it is. It cannot change because there's always an ebb and flow. Your tax dollars come in, and so early in the month, your tax comes in, you're high, and by the end of the month, you pay your bills, you're low. But you're exactly right. Now, I believe majority of districts, because of all these other statutory laws, they have gone to earlier in the month because you're otherwise constantly moving your meetings. So you just understand as a board, if we do that, Jack, that you're making some motions retroactively.
Yeah, that's just my point. If, and heaven forbid, we stumbled across something where somebody was trying to do something, they've already been able to do it more times before we can get it stopped and corrected is one of the dangers of looking at things that old.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the time, if somebody's doing something, your auditor's going to catch it. But you're right. But then also, by contrast, if you're moving your meetings anyway, like we are right now, you're either going to have more meetings to do both, or you're keeping them scheduled late, and half the time you're not actually doing it that way. So I'm kind of, your points are entirely valid. I'm just trying to look for some consistency where we don't have to adjust our meeting times for the public's sake as much, that they can expect some consistency. Because it gets hard at the end of the year to stay late in the month. But all extremely valid points. All right. Let me close with this if there's no other questions. Safety and security. Greg's presentation, again, I thank you, Greg, for all you've been doing, and I hope you know that those questions are all because everybody cares and wants to do the right thing. I know you do too, and so does the board. The Z-Lock presentation to secure our classroom doors, for one, we'll definitely, as a board, just send me more of those questions. Let me collect data and bring it to you next month in the second reading. And again, a lot of valid points there. We want to make sure we make good choices. I want to say first, though, one of the great choices you've already made is the safety coordinator with Greg. It's going to be a good move for us. All the trainings and things that he's gone through, just, what choices we make for our safety plans are neither here nor there, but the fact that we're making choices for our safety plans is everything and of great, great value. And that's what I care about most of all, is that, especially on the heels of passing this levy, that we're showing our community, our parents, our kids, our teachers, we're going to make these buildings safer. And we're going to do the best we can to do that the best way possible. And that's what all this conversation is about. So, Greg, thanks for coming and bringing us the information you have so far, and we'll bring more, and we'll make good decisions together. The SRO position is something in a first reading format. It's something that I bring up in first reading. I might need to bring up in a second and third reading because I've got all the budget development to do. The reason these Z-Locks and SRO things are coming up tonight that I want to tell you about, though, is that the state has released grant dollars. The district, we did apply for that, and I confirmed last night that our grant is in because it closed. It's closed, and they started reviewing grant applications today. I don't remember how many million the governor released for safety and security, but Marshall Public Schools could qualify for, I believe it's $200,000. And so we've applied for that for things like our secure vestibules, securing our doors, dealing with our glass doors, a lot of things. Yes, we have a levy passed, but we know that as big as that and significant as that 99-cent levy was, we're going to have to be extremely frugal and stretch our dollars. So we have $5,700 grant right now, not a grant, donation that was given to us right now to be spent on safety and security. I hope we have $200,000 more coming. And I think April 27th was the final day of vetting out the application. So by the May meeting, it's possible that I'll know if we got that grant. So trying and hoping to spend some of this money, grant money, if we get it, to save that levy money to do bigger things with our planning that we do the next several months. And that concludes my meeting, my April meeting with you. If you don't have any questions for me, I'll stop there and let you guys get to votes.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you have any indication of what our rate might be paying on our?
On the levy?
Yeah.
So I know that they have dropped significantly because of some of the shaky ground that's going on with the banks, which is interesting because home loan rates haven't dropped, but they've slowed their increases. but I don't remember the exact rates, but they dropped more in the last 2 months than they've dropped since like 1978 in terms of the significance of their percentage drop, but they'd been on their way up. But right now it looks good. We had our meeting, our first meeting with all of the stakeholders in this, from contractors to underwriters to architects. And I asked them I said, I know it's a crystal ball question, you don't have one, but if we don't hurry, because on the one hand, we could hurry and sell certificates of participation, we could sell a bunch right now. I said, if we slow this down and make really sure that we're doing what we told the public we would do you anticipate a negative impact? I asked that more than I guess I asked the exact interest rates right now. He said economic and financial people are making larger and larger predictions that this recession is going to become more official, and it'll probably only get better if we wait just a little bit because of these bank closings and things. That was his reasoning for it. But he said it is a crystal ball question. Don't hold me to that. But I think you can only get better if you wait, and it's better right now than it's been in a year. But I'm sorry, I don't know what the exact. I'll find out and let you know, though.
Okay, thank you.
You betcha.
Good question. Wish I'd thought of it.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Pettit. Moving down to old business, we have none.
Good.
Quickest point on the agenda this evening.
That was a
So,
quick one.
Moving down to new business, so we need to certify the election results from the levy. Of course, the levy passed at 1,943 yes votes compared to 722 no votes. I just want to take a quick moment and thank the people that were on the yes committee with me. I
Absolutely.
chaired the committee. Co-chairs were Ms. Amy Green and Michelle Pointer. Treasurer was Wick Jacoby. Secretary was Dr. Andy Lizenbart. Media, Cassie Bruce did a fantastic job. I can't say that more again, on sign design, Facebook running, and other things, answering questions, reaching out to me about questions and answers at 10 o'clock at night, at 8 o'clock in the morning, and all hours in between. And also Ms. Shelby Bethel from the chamber as well, who served on the media committee. So just want to thank everyone there. There were also about another 80 community members who were very vested, whether they spent some time door knocking or coming to meetings or wanting to just make sure they had all the information so they could answer those questions in their small groups. So thank you all. It was obvious that Marshall's ready for a change, and Marshall's ready to support themselves and our next generation, our youth. So on that, I'm going to ask that we certify the results from the
So
election.
moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Don't believe there's any conversation about that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? Brad, did you or Matt get there? I think you'll.
Yes.
Yes, Brad? Mhm. She hasn't quite got everybody's voice yet, so. All right.
Simultaneous.
The next thing that we need to do is accept the bank depository bid for July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2025. This, of course, be the time period of looking at our certificates of participation. We had one bidder from that, as Mr. Rinky so eloquently said.
Yeah.
No certificates of
No,
participation.
not certificates of participation, I'm sorry, just the bank
Yeah.
depository, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for stopping me before I auctioned off something tonight we weren't doing yet.
I'll make a motion.
I move we table this to the next meeting. I want some time. I did not get to look at this previously, and there are more ways than one to invest our excess funds. And I would like to see and look at that bid more carefully and possibly go talk to those people and talk to people that I'm acquainted with in the community and the banking industry. And I think we're moving a little too quick.
So now this is not investments, this is just your banking business. So it's not like, well, especially like these certificates of participation where we might have a windfall of a few $1 million, you'll invest it in a different way. That's where I think a few months back you asked me about investments and the interest rates that they're getting. This is a separate matter. This is just your money in, money out payroll stuff.
This is our checking account.
Yeah, this is our doing business day to day.
Yeah, Brian just said the wrong thing.
Yes.
Say that
I
again,
only
Aaron.
got one good thing in tonight, and I already told Harry I passed that, so this was my error for the evening.
Yeah, so Jack, this isn't your investments, this is just your banking business, your day to day. It's not your bigger returns on APR. Like you had asked me a while back if we had investments and what the returns were, this is a separate matter.
Are you thinking of something else about it, Jack? Are you thinking about, well, why did we have just the one bidder? Things like that?
Yeah, it just bothers me is all. And you can vote my motion down or don't do a second, but.
Sure, of course, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's a board member's place to go
Trying to stir up more
generate
bids.
bids. I mean, we sent them out, they have the opportunity to bid on them, and they chose not to, so.
But there's also a slight increase in this, wasn't it, from our current percentage rate to this percentage rate, because it was like
About
0.64? Yeah, it was like 0.64 to 0.9, I believe.
Yeah, the
was
interest went
difference.
from 5.6 to 0.9,
Correct.
Okay,
0.56.
those were the numbers I was looking for, thank you.
So that's good. Did we have a motion?
So Jack has a motion to table. That motion will live or die as other seconds or other motions are made.
Did we have another motion to accept it?
I made a motion, we accept
Matt did, okay.
Shane, thanks.
So there's a motion to table, there's also a motion to accept. Both need a second.
I suppose we've got another month.
Okay, let my motion die then for lack of a second.
Yeah, your motion died. His motion died, Brian, because it
Well,
wasn't second.
they're both sitting without a second.
Well, the second, but there's still a
But you
motion there
jump
that
over,
can be
yes,
seconded.
Yes.
Robert's Rule of Order, I better get it back in my head again.
Okay. My motion died for lack of a second. Now,
And the next one,
somebody moved to accept it and seconded that.
Also, huh?
all right.
Yeah.
Call a question.
So it has been one motion that has died for lack of support, one that has been moved and seconded for an increase in our interest-bearing amount in our checking account. All those in favor, please say aye.
No?
Abstaining?
No, I'll
Anyone?
vote for it.
Aye, we'll make it.
All right.
But I do see the validity of a request to get, it's always nice when we have more time rather than less time to read board packet material. So I understand where you're coming from, Jeff.
And this is the first time that I've been on the board that we only received actually one bid.
Yeah, last
That
time I
too.
went, we
Which
had
was
all
interesting
three
as well.
banks last time I
Yeah.
went.
Yes, so, as I said before, our banks are very supportive of us as a district, and
Oh, yeah.
we are going to be moving forward. There's other banking business that will be done here, so.
Amen.
Next, we need to look at declaring Southeast Elementary a school surplus.
So
That does
moved.
not,
As of what date?
Today.
as of now,
So,
that does not mean that we're saying it's going to be a real estate or how we're getting rid of it. It just says we're going to surplus it.
right.
You gotta
First step towards moving
There's
in
still,
that
I
direction.
understand all that. There's still stuff going on in Southeast, right?
Yeah, so the
Isn't it a little awkward to declare it as surplus?
So I'll read you some verbiage on that because
That
I
would
looked
be
into it
useful.
quite a bit. So the way that the exact motion would read or be recorded need to be for our policy's sake is that you would declare it as surplus property, the real property at said address, in which ownership is vested in the district and which is no longer required for district use. That's what really gets at our policy. And when I say those words, no longer required for district use, we're looking long-term, not immediately. And the last words that make sense of that is to dispose of said property using a real estate broker. That allows you to start all the processes.
That's how I move.
Okay. Without all those details, Dr. Meyer, it's just there's so many subsequent steps that I can't follow because of our policy.
Okay, well, no, and I understand all that. I just, and I don't know that it does create any sort of legal black hole, but it just seems untidy to say, this building is surplus. We've still got
We're gonna
students
use
in
it
it.
till the middle of May.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that just seems a little not so neat.
Yeah, we're definitely moving kind of fast, and one of the concerns with that is the playground equipment and stuff on the outside is one
I
consideration.
get the exigency.
But the interior urgency is the HVAC. We want to get the bills off our back still, and if that building sits uncooled, I'm afraid of what'll happen to the building.
No, and again, I understand the situation. I'm just trying to make sure that we aren't in some sort of infinite loop black hole situation or some weird thing where we've declared a building to be surplus, but we've got kids in it.
Yeah.
Do you understand where I'm coming from
I
with
do
that?
100%.
Okay,
And we
then
did
we're all
refer
on
to
the same
legal
page.
counsel on this because it's extremely convoluted. But I have their guidance to lean on as far as our liabilities, because I didn't trust my own judgment alone without it. So it's a
Great.
fair question.
I think Harry moved.
I just amend my move, I amend my motion to what he said.
Very good, very good.
She's got it then. You can catch it.
So it has been moved and seconded, and I'm not going to attempt to read all that verbiage back again.
No, but thank God that we got it on the record.
Yeah.
Okay? Be useful
I
to have
agree,
in the
Aaron.
agenda
And,
as
and
well.
the secretary
But we'll
whispered
deal
to
with
me
that.
that she will make sure that verbiage is reflected in the minutes
I need
correctly.
a
So,
second.
are there any more questions or concerns before we vote?
Did I get
second
a
it.
second? Oh, I got my
You had
second.
one, sir. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any abstaining? Or nay? Next, we are looking at adoption of the board meeting dates, which are presented to you at the tab of policy changed calendar. Actually, in your packet, the probably yellow tab in the back, because I'm sure we all have them color-coded the same way. And that will be moving our monthly meeting to the second Tuesday of the month. We will also need to reflect that in our policy as well, and revise that as well probably, and either have a first reading or move forward with that next meeting as well.
I was going to ask, in fact, because this says to adopt these meeting dates, but that will be in contravention of our policy. So I was kind of expecting there to be a policy reading here as well.
So we can do that in two ways with that, Dr. Meyer. The policy revision, we have another one with policy, I think it's ACA, if I'm remembering right. Is that right? Okay, yeah, so we have some policy revisions coming with this next month. In the short term, the May 9th meeting would be the requested for May, because we have graduation and things that conflict there. So we can either go ahead and move this now and do the policy first reading next month, or we can just say we're moving just May, and I leave that to you as a board's discretion. But we do have a conflict with the regularly scheduled May and June meeting, and we do have the policy coming. We just didn't.
I mean, to be perfectly frank, I'd rather have the policy changed and then just change the other two meeting dates. That's much more tidy.
Okay.
But it's also, is it being fastidious for its own sake? Probably so. I mean,
Yeah, I guess I was kind of seeking some finality, because I feel like I keep coming to you with revised meeting dates. So for that matter, you kind of have.
They come to us with a revised policy. If that's
Yeah.
what you want changed, come to us with a revised policy.
And so this
We
would be
did this
the,
very similar thing actually already this year.
Yeah.
Where we revised our calendar dates, and then we turned around and revised the policy the
I
following
know,
meeting.
which is why I'm saying this.
So we've
Maybe
kind of
we
made a
can-
precedent of doing it in a possibly
Which is
a
why I'm saying
non-following
this.
order, so we can definitely look at doing it the other way. It matters not, we're going to change the meeting date for next month anyway, and so we can come back and make it as clean as we'd like to next
yeah,
month.
yeah, I'd say if you don't have any just input on this, then that'll guide what the policy I bring to you is.
If there is no motion, then there will just die as it sits.
I move that we change our May and June dates and have the first reading of the policy next month.
Second.
Call a question.
I don't believe there's much of a question to that, but all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining?
I'd make a comment, though.
Yes, sir.
The board should have the right to fine the superintendent. I assume every one of these are cast in stone, and if he changes one on him, then we're going to fine him.
Quarter.
Quarter.
Never mind, I removed the recommendation.
I agree with that.
We have no swear jar up here, so. All right, looking at declaring surplus furniture at the Butterfield campus. There was a list of this as well within your packets as well. This is furniture that is surplus from the Butterfield campus itself. As we took occupation of the building, there were a number of items that were left within the building that the district has no use for.
What are we going to do with them?
Will we sell it?
Yeah, so this will be a public auction where people can come and bid on it.
May I make a suggestion? Can we add southeast to that?
So this will be the first surplus auction. And the list in your packet, you're actually declaring those specific items. We have far more surplus in the district. There will be subsequent surplus to come.
There's a
Trying to
gym
avoid
full of
doing it
items
again.
currently now, and from what I understand, we're going to just refill that gym about every couple of weeks until we have gotten rid of everything.
Till it's all gone or we have a fire, huh? No, we already had a fire. We don't need another fire.
Wiener roast.
We need roads. So move that we
Second.
declare surplus of furniture at Butterfield campus.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? Next, there are a few first reading things. Handbooks was one of those. There seems to be some still revisions that are going to be out for those. Mr. Pettit's timeline gave them about another 2 months, so we'll have another reading of those as well next month, and then a final reading or acceptance in June.
Just while we're here for it then, the language about online bulletin boards, for
Yeah.
example, is antiquated. Caught that one. We're looking at, let's see. Are the policies in there right now vis-à-vis phones and clothes set?
Are they set in what way do you mean?
Do you, like, this is what we've,
This is the final.
exactly.
I would say that's probably still going to be a point of discussion with the admin team again this week.
That's fine, I'm just
So
curious.
there's been there could still be some give and take. I'm not certain of what, or that there will be, but it's possible.
Cool. The requirement the phones be connected to the school Wi-Fi,
That was already there.
which
And
I'm kind of like,
That didn't make
I
any
think-
sense to me.
but why?
I think that allows them to
Which I-
see what's coming through.
It does.
Their
That's
filters.
exactly what it's for.
Yeah.
They can monitor what the kids are doing, if their phones are connected to the Wi-Fi, if they're
Right.
connected to their cell service, they cannot.
Are we having CTS look at all of this?
I don't know who's monitoring it.
Well, and that's gonna be my question, is like, is what's in the handbook vis-à-vis that data use by students and their phones still what we're actually doing? That's the
Yeah,
question.
so with regard to that policy, we didn't change that one. It just is what it is. So if,
But is it what it is? Is
yeah.
CTS, are we still doing that? Does that still reflect reality? That's my
like if they're doing something and that something inappropriate is happening, is it being monitored?
No,
you
no,
know?
just just the letter of the law. Let me rephrase this question. Has CTS looked at the handbooks? When it comes to technology stuff, can CTS say to us, yes, or any arm of technology management in the district, have they looked at the handbook and said, oh, yes, we're still doing it this way? Oh, yes, we're still doing it that way?
They have not this year, and I don't know if they had historically or not. I'll look into
They've still got some
that.
time, apparently.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. We'll take note of that and have them review it. And there's a lot of statutory requirements take effect July 1
Yeah.
with regard to cybersecurity, so probably would be prudent.
Legal requirement that
Yeah, which is
we
great.
have that in
Which is fine.
place.
But just in
Have
terms
that
of
in
the,
policy.
in terms of the day-to-day management of it and the expectations that students and their parents should have about what their interactions with technology throughout the school day will be like, is that still how we're managing things just on a day-to-day basis? And that's why I was wondering if CTS has looked at it.
Yeah, I'll have them take a look at it for sure.
And there are just a couple of opportunities to say use a URL shortener, because we've got something like for forms where we're saying to parents, just go to this 3-line long URL.
Yeah.
Can we shorten that?
All
Yeah,
of-
with like special characters everywhere, and oh my gosh, is there any way we can help these people out?
Format is,
So there's a yes and a no to that. That's unfortunate to me because I love a hyperlink. The issue from a best practice standpoint is that there are some folks, I've been advised, I've asked that very same question, that they need to see the whole thing because for whatever reason on the interface they look at it, they can't.
Fair enough.
They can't click
Makes
hyperlink.
sense.
But it would be nicer and cleaner if you could. Yeah.
I saw some, what I thought were attempts at getting more consistent with the format, but I saw some obvious places where it was just copied and pasted, and it was obvious. I would like to see some sort of more consistency all the way through with the handbook.
Yeah, I agree. And I will definitely tell you guys to know for sure that we will not achieve perfection this year. because these handbooks were so far apart.
Yeah, they were.
Every time we do another reading, we find out, well, we left this out.
Yeah.
That is in that one, but it's not in
Yeah,
this
they're
one.
terrible.
And we're going to keep going over
This
and
is a
trying to find
massive
it.
undertaking. We fought with, whatever, I don't even remember. I don't even want to go there. First time I read one.
I know plenty of
Yeah,
attorneys who get
but,
paid very well.
but I know some of what you're speaking to because I can think of about two examples right now when Friday before rather, we were going through them one more time, legal and just I,
Yeah.
and we found two items just that day we said we forgot it, we got to copy and paste it, it still needs to be
There's one
polished.
section where the bullet points are over the type and things like that
Yeah.
need to be
Yeah, there'll be a
addressed.
lot of that cleaned
I don't
up.
want to rush these. We need to get them right.
And your table of contents is completely inaccurate until the very end too, yeah.
Are these going to be
That was my
digitally
next point,
accessible?
so.
They will be digital.
Then the URL issue is not exactly a moot point, but kind of. It's-
I figured they would be on the website, so some of that would just be embedded, which would be a lot easier to just go to.
Yeah.
But I was giving a little bit of grace because I knew that what I saw before and where I was coming to now, and the fact that we were going to give another alignment and another 30 days and then another after that. So, but
Questions,
there
issues,
are
and
some.
opportunities are not necessarily saying that this is bad. This is an
Yeah.
improvement. This is
Yes.
great. We have small things. We
There-
have small things.
There are a lot of inconsistency issues
I didn't see
that I
any-
noticed as well, even from
And these are
the
fixable.
first page.
These are small things. This
you
is,
know,
this
as
is
they
very
go,
great.
so.
This is excellent progress.
I didn't see any major contradictions as I did the first time
Right.
through, where they actually, one contradicted the other.
And then I'll tell you a thing that's nice to have legal, kind of like having this sort of conversation tonight. I know it's a long night, but to be able to get all this input and perspectives, because every perspective has some value. Just changing the names of people who do certain things has policy implications, and you get so far into the weeds, you sort of forget that. And so it's really good to have these conversations. But again, I do know that they won't be perfect. The first year, this is my third time doing this with districts, and it takes till about the third year to really, really, really like what you have. But it's a great start.
This is not
Is
an
there any
action
more
item anyway,
discussion?
so.
Is there any more discussion here?
It's a non-action item, so we can move to the next.
The creation of the SRO position, is this going to be housed out of a certain area? I don't know if I missed that or not.
Yeah,
So-
did I miss this?
So
Yes.
again, that falls into, I'm bringing it out there to put it out there for you all in the public now. It's going to really need to fall into that budget creation first to make sure it's
Right.
responsible, but we do have goals for where we know we have some weaknesses and would like to put this extra position. But it's a moot point until we get the financing figured out, because I'm not sure just yet that we can responsibly do it without that grant.
I was going to say, is this something that would be 100% payable by the grant, at least initially as well?
If we get the grant, that's specifically named among other things in there. Yes.
And we would see a full position description, like a full write-up
So
before.
more of all this hard work, yes and no. Unfortunately, because we've got some job description reworking to do, and it's a massive body of work. But yes, we'll have a job description
Okay.
for this and the other two positions we have, which needs to be redone anyway.
Sure.
Good question.
I do have some issues with the next one.
Okay. May I speak to that first and then take your
Yeah.
questions after? Is that okay? So the creation of the assistant AD stipend, Beaker Middle School. And again, first reading, we're not voting on this tonight, but I wanted to start the discussion on all of this stuff so that I can figure it out in the budget, because that's the other piece of it. So Marshall Public Schools currently has one athletic director for the whole district, which is primarily your middle school and your secondary. I am not proposing another athletic director, but rather a stipend that would be put on as an extra job duty for someone in district. I'm not certain who that someone is. That's another piece of the puzzle to work out. But I want to first get a sense from the board where you all are. What I am seeing is, and it kind of goes back to that handbook, it goes back to curriculum and vertical alignment. We are a district our size with one athletic director for our whole district. We're spreading him thin and making him have to choose between secondary and middle school, and I say that through no fault of his own. But I think we need to really work on setting the stage in the middle school to support that athletic high school platform. And this is not so much even for athletics, but for parents to understand our communication and our expectation among our athletics. And I think it's part of being consistent and being well vertically aligned. So that's the reason I'm proposing we make an assistant AD that would still be under Kelly Callahan responsible for Beaker Middle School, and a large part of their responsibility would be communication and organization.
My objection is we were trying to make a conscious effort to get rid of stipends. I would prefer this to be a job description drawn into wherever direction we go in. Like, we've got 2 assistant principals there. I could see, I don't know, I'm not proposing that this is how it ought to be, but maybe in the job description of one is assistant principal to assist with discipline and do the AD thing, not as a stipend. I don't like the stipend.
Harry, I completely agree. There is a legal component to that if it's a current existing principal. If you put that duty on them as an additional task, but without compensation, it's how you navigate the legality of that. But I don't disagree at all. It fits better in a job description, but once you have someone hired under a current job description, you got to be careful with the legality of putting more on them, more tasks, because some things can be other duties as assigned and some things can't qualify.
So when we rushed to put the second principal in, we weren't doing a good job of preparing for something like this.
I think in terms of just to do so with no liability, because I wouldn't also say you can't do it, I just wouldn't say you could do it with no liability. So
We're already paying somebody for doing this job.
being the
Yeah.
Kelly Callahan, yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah. But anyway, there's 2 ways to do it. It's just where you are in the current, it kind of dictates the course that's of the least.
I think going to
risk.
stipend is not a good direction. That's something we've been trying to get away from. And
Okay.
I just.
So was the
I-
idea here that this would be a stipend just for this year, and then we would draw this into a job description for an existing position, and it takes the money with it, but not as a stipend, just as part of the salary?
Yeah, so if I'm understanding your question right, I think you're exactly right, I'm pretty sure. So when you have an existing position that you're adding more tasks to, that falls to the extra duty path. But down the road, if you're redoing job descriptions or you're adding a new position, you can redo that job description at that time and then therefore not have the extra duty stipend.
I would really
appropriate way to
prefer to
navigate.
go that route.
Yeah.
And I think.
Because I've seen this and happen, and all of a sudden,
Yep.
I call it administrative creep. All of a sudden, okay, so we got, no, now we need another administrator to help the,
Right.
and it's $8,000 could be spent
The
better
word
somewhere else.
stipend may just be a moot point with it being April now. We're not going to implement this for the remainder of this year.
You would not implement it for the remainder of this year. Yeah.
Nice work. Give that man a vice presidency.
It's not my first meeting.
Sorry, I know everybody wants to go home.
No, you're all right.
You're
No, we
fine.
just solved a problem, Harry. This is great.
$8,000.
And what Matt said, in case everyone didn't hear it, is this is a position that we would be looking at for next year. And so we have some time to kind of vet out how we want this to look and give some additional feedback, so. Also, moving down to I, purchase of door locking mechanisms. I'm just going to say we've already talked about this a little bit, and we've asked for some other products, some other information about those, and so that also will be kind of a moot point for us. As we've talked about it, we know we want to be conscious with how we secure our schools and safety, and that we want to make sure we're purchasing the best option for the buildings that we have and the buildings that we will have going forward, so.
Motion to adjourn to closed session for hiring, firing, disciplining, promoting employees. Is there anything else?
May I ask one
No,
more
ma'am.
question?
Jack
Yes.
has a
Yes,
question
sir.
before we second that.
I came across the thing and it says new teacher reception on 4/24. Where do they have that?
Your question was where did they have
Where did they have their new teacher reception?
on 4/24?
It's what it
For
said.
the PD day?
I don't know. It says looking ahead and address days and this and that and that.
Jack wants to know where the party's at.
Oh, Jack, I'll find out for you, I don't know.
Do they hold it here or is it at the,
I don't know, I'd have to
Okay.
find out and let you know.
It's new for us.
thank you.
I'll second, are you John?
Yeah.
I'll second Aaron's motion.
Aren't you glad?
Yeah, no, not really.
It has been moved and seconded that we adjourn to closed session. Dr. Meyer?
I'm on your toes, man, that's why I let you here.
Aye.
That's why I have on my.
Harry?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Aye. Thank you all. The longest open session of the night.
Please, to the next